Okay, all the board members here?
They are.
Okay. Just about 7 o'clock. Okay, it's Tuesday, September 8th, 7 p.m. And I call this meeting of the Wellfleet order. First order of business is announcements, open session, and public comments. Public comments must be brief. The board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. Do I have anything from the board or from the audience? We got Helen, got an announcement? Go ahead, Helen.
Yes, we received notice just before the meeting that Scott Horsley, who's been working with the wastewater committee, can't be here tonight. He apparently wasn't notified of it. But the reason I'm bringing this up in announcements is tomorrow at, I believe, 3 o'clock, you can check the website calendar. The Board of Health is going to be meeting probably with him and the wastewater committee. So if you don't get enough information tonight, you could go to that meeting. Once again, tomorrow, Wednesday, I believe it's 3, wastewater committee and Board of Health. Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone?
Seeing any further?
Okay, not seeing any. Public hearings. So first up, we have an annual tax classification hearing. And do we have the assessor here?
Yes, this is Nancy Vail, the assessor.
Hey, Nancy. How are you?
Hi. Okay.
I guess, if you could just quickly explain the options we have here.
Sure.
So
this is the annual classification hearing where the select board can decide how to divvy up the tax burden between the 5 classes of property, which are residential, open space, commercial, industrial, and personal property. So the first option is to decide whether the board would like to shift the tax burden from residential onto commercial. We've always had the same tax rate for residential and commercial. And because we're 96% residential and 4% commercial, it would shift the burden onto a very, very small number of businesses. So if the select board would like to have the same tax rate for residential and commercial, I would need a motion with a favorable vote to make the residential factor the numeral 1 for fiscal 2021.
Okay, do we have any discussion on this, or are you guys ready to vote on it?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
I'm ready.
I move to make the residential factor the numeral 1 for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Helen, second.
Janet, I.
Helen, I.
Brian, I.
I'm trying to unmute Justina, sorry.
Michael, I.
Justina, I.
And I'll just say in that the fact that our commercial properties are so small percentage of our property, plus we have a home occupation bylaw, that it would be an unfair burden to place on commercial property. Okay, go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. Next option, the residential exemption, which is a tax break given to people who are domiciled in Wellfleet. The board of the select board first voted it in FY19, and I think you probably heard me talk last year about kind of what a debacle it was. It was voted in, and then we had a very, very short period of time in order to get people to qualify. So what we did that year was we just guessed 900 people who were domiciled and then dealt with it after the fact. So last year was better. We got a lot more people we only had about 600 and something people turn in their paperwork during FY19. So that was okay. That went well. We're getting a handle on the program. This year so far we have 732 people who have handed in their paperwork. So the way it works is you find out the average value of the entire residential class, which is single families, condos, 3 families, vacant land. You find an average of that, which I believe this year is something like 538,000. And then the select board can vote to exempt up to 35% of that average value, and that is the tax break to the locals. So for FY20, the amount of the exemption was $110,664, which translated in tax dollars to $857. So that's what the board needs to consider here. Last year, I did ask you to please keep to the 20% as opposed to going up to the 35% because we're still getting a handle on the program, and I would ask that the board for that same percentage for this year. And my concern and I know, Michael, last year you expressed a desire to eventually go up to the 35. My concern right now is, first of all, after this fiscal year, we will totally have a handle on this program. But my concern is, as you all know, we seem to be getting a pretty large influx of either new homeowners or what were non-resident taxpayers moving into their Wellfleet homes because of the pandemic. And this exemption only works when you have a large split between non-residents and residents. And I believe our working assumption right now is 65% non-resident, 35% resident. So next year, I think we'll know how many of these folks have actually become domiciled in Wellfleet. And if we do approach more of a 50-50 split, then this exemption wouldn't make any financial sense. So that's why I would ask the board to keep to their 20% this year, if you so vote the exemption.
Okay, so I've got some hands up. I didn't see who's went up first, so I'm just going to go by seniority on the board right now. Janet, I see Janet's.
Yep.
You go ahead, Janet.
Nancy, can you, for the public's knowledge, say the cutoff dates to file for this?
Sure. We asked people they have by law till April 1st of 2021 to get their paperwork in to qualify for the exemption for fiscal 21. We asked people to please get their paperwork in by September 1st in order for us to get that on the fall tax bill. So that way the exemption is built in and, you get the whole year's thing right there. Drawing a blank. But, people can apply all the way up to April 1st. So last year, we had a lot of people get their paperwork in before the fall tax bill. That was great, but there was still a lot of confusion about the problem. So many, many, many people got their paperwork in before the spring tax bill went out. So they got the whole exemption taken off, the whole $857 taken off on the spring bill. But because the spring bill goes out like the last week of March, but statutorily they have until April 1st to apply, there were people that applied in the week after the tax bill went out before the April 1st deadline. And actually, I believe it was extended to May 1st. So those people got a check in the mail. And I would definitely like to put out there and reiterate, if you have filed your paperwork once, you need not do it again.
Okay.
Once is good enough.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just going to keep going in order, Helen, because I just saw that you just put your hand up. Justina?
Did you want Helen to go, or do you want me to go?
Well, why don't you go, Justina? Your hand was up first. I just needed to decide whose hand was up with those three hands. So we'll go Justina, Ryan, and then Helen. If that's
Okay. Nancy, a quick question for Nancy through you to Michael, and then I have a few comments. Nancy, when you say debacle, I think what you meant was it took a bit of administrative, more than a bit of administrative work to make this all happen, probably without any additional staff resources. Am I guessing right?
Right. Normally, the proper way to do it is to vote it in and then give the assessor's office the time they need to get the word out, to get people to bring in their paperwork. As I understand it, in Provincetown, the select board voted it in the fall, and I think they didn't put a tax bill out till February because they needed that time to get a proper count on the number of domiciled people. So we didn't have that leisure. We needed to get that October tax bill out. So we just, ran a list and guesstimated who was domiciled and who was not. So we know
so
that we gave the exemption to people who shouldn't have got it, and we didn't give the exemption to people who should have gotten it.
So it's a bit of a burden on town hall.
Yeah, it was just a crazy time, and we don't know just because. And part of the problem was, I'd say 75% of the people in town use a PO box. Their tax returns say a PO box. Everything says a PO box. Anybody can get a PO box.
But it is getting a bit easier.
It's getting much, much, much better. We just have to keep a handle on, when a year-rounder sells their house, we have to take the exemption off. When somebody new comes in, they call and I say, well, you weren't domiciled on 1/1/19, so you're going to have to wait until next year. But I think we're getting a pretty good handle on it. And I guess we need to get more of the word out, even though I know it was in the newspaper many times. It's been on the website a bunch of times. But I looked through my list of those original 900 people, and I can identify many who I know to be domiciled here who have not applied for that exemption.
Well, Nancy, it may shock you, but word on the street is you're doing a terrific job, and these things take time. And
right. And that's why I'm just asking, give me another year,
Yeah, well, word has it you're doing a terrific job with no new resources. I wanted to clarify that word debacle because I think the program actually is very good for Wellfleet, and actually for a new program is working well. I would tend to agree with the assessor's recommendation on holding at 20%. And I do think this is an important program that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts offers towns across the Commonwealth that Wellfleet is now availing itself of, particularly in communities like Wellfleet, where we are dealing with such big disparities in local incomes and then those of our valued second homeowners who earn their income from elsewhere, and where we're seeing such hot real estate markets with lots, waterfront lots, not with houses on them selling for as much as $1.5 million. We have to give our local people a fighting chance, and this tax program has been very important for our local population. So I hope the rest of the select board will join me in voting for it. And I see Susan Ratherby's name here today. I hope she will join us in helping us explain to her constituency why Wellfleet really needs programs like this to keep us to be the Wellfleet we all know and love, that gives a fair shake to our year-rounders and continues to be a diverse community.
Okay. Ryan?
Thanks.
Yes. So I would like to extend the residential exemption to include year-round rentals. That is allowed under the state regulations for residential exemption. So I would really like to extend the exemption to property owners who may be renting their house out on a year-round, or housing unit out on a year-round basis to a local resident.
That is I guess it's called the extended residential exemption. That's something I actually just recently became aware of. And as far as I understand it, that is on the legislative level. So I think that would be the Selectboard contacting Julian Sear and Sarah Peak and asking them to file that legislation for us. And I think that's a great idea, because there are people that are renting year-round, and the homeowner is not eligible to get the exemption because they're not domiciled in the house. So I think that would be great if the Select Board could contact our legislators and start to move that through.
All right, if you can get us some clarity on that, that would be great. And it is a way to it's a small incentive, but it is a small incentive to try to help preserve some of the rental stock in town that's badly needed on a year-round basis.
Yeah, I agree.
Helen?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Am I muted?
We hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, two things. The first is, Mike, when we vote on this, can we have two separate motions? One for the percentage, 20%, 30%, whatever, as one motion, and then the other one for, I move to approve the adoption of a residential tax exemption.
Yeah, we can.
Because I'm going to vote against that, but I would like to vote, hold on, I'd like to be able to have a vote that would keep it down to 20% this year, and supported very much by what Nancy just said. So once again, I'm going to state that we have no way of knowing the finances of the people who are in either category. I know people who have been really helped by this. Okay? And I also know people who, in a few cases, and I don't know everybody in town, spend more time here, although they're classified as seasonal residents and they're domiciled elsewhere. Particularly this year, they're spending more time here than people that are registered voters. This is a status which fluctuates in people's lives very, very often. And I'm not sure that I like describing people who live here year-round as uniformly in greater financial need. The one thing I'm sure of is I have no way of knowing everybody's finances. I know people here who have a lot of money who live here all year. The only thing that I would urge people to consider if they are classified as domiciled here, which only takes 185 days according to the IRS, is that you don't, for heaven's sake, ask to benefit from this exemption if you don't need it, because to quote Nancy, the assessor, or to quote what came from the Board of Assessors, what we all know is the net effect of doing this is that the tax rate goes up more or less for all residential taxpayers, whether they supposedly live here or supposedly don't. And yes, I have known people who have been helped by it, but shame on anybody that applies for this that doesn't really need it. Thank you.
Michael, may I respond to Helen?
Yes.
The thing about this exemption is it is not need-based at all. It is simply based on domicile. So you could be a bazillionaire or you could be getting food stamps and you still get the exemption. Now, I got a tax, we require the application, a copy of your mass tax return and a few other things. And I got a tax return, and anyone is welcome to redact any financial information. We're just simply trying to physically link you with your Wellfleet address. So I got a tax return in where the, line 1, wages, salaries, tips, and all that, was $1,275,000. And it's their right to apply for that exemption because they are domiciled here. So that, I think, is a lot of the rub for the part-time residents, the non-domiciled residents, is because it is not need-based. But that's the law. So there you go. But also, to address what Helen said, yes, it does. And it's funny because you just voted to retain a single tax rate, but when you do vote a residential exemption, it splits the tax rate because only the residential class has to make up for all the value and the tax dollars that are lost. So last year, without the residential exemption, the tax rate would have been $748 per $1,000 of valuation. But with the residential exemption, commercial and personal property stayed at $748, but residential went up to $775. So it's the residential class that bears the burden of any exemption. So, and I do know some people that whether they don't, I know a gentleman who is domiciled, and he declined to apply for the exemption because he's in a nice neighborhood, he's close with his neighbors, most of whom are not domiciled, and he said, I want to pay the same taxes as my friends next door that don't live here. And then I had a couple of other people that don't believe in the exemption, but they took it and they gave the amount of the exemption to like the Homeless Prevention Council or, the Lower Cape CDC, a food pantry, something like that, because they would rather take the exemption and do with it as they wished rather than leaving it on the table. So there are people out there that do not have a need for this, but they do take it and then they donate it to charity.
Okay. Well, so I will just speak to this for a second, and I think, the important thing is that there's no perfect solution to anything, but the benefit of this program by far outweighs the few that don't need it who take it. Because, growing up here, we've all seen property values skyrocket. The primary driver of those property values are not domiciled residents. It's the primary driver of property values is second home ownership. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's the truth. I mean, people are buying property values are going up. It's money coming from outside our region that enables people to make those purchases. So families who are here that have lived in their homes for maybe a couple generations or have been able to remain here and purchase a house, especially young people on the margins, barely able to afford it, are impacted greatly by this reduction. And if Nancy could just say, what the rate, what is the average increase in property bill for those who are burdened by this?
Oh, that like as in a non-resident taxpayer's tax bill?
Right. Like, so the average reduction for a resident domicile.
$857.
And what about the burden? Because there's more people sharing the burden than the.
Right. So that for everyone that, the 732 people that we have qualified for this year, times $857, all that money has to get made up by everyone in the residential class. So it's the non-residents pay the exact same tax rate as the residents do. It's just they don't get the value of that exemption. So
Right.
we don't,
I guess the point I'm trying to make really is that, that amount of money is split by a larger class of people. It also includes, the $2 million beach homes. Wellfleet has one of the lowest property tax rates in the state of Massachusetts. It's like one of the lowest 10. That's great. But our property value compared to our income here, for those who live and work here, is really high. I think that, the good outweighs, the benefits outweigh the costs in this situation. And that's why I'm so in favor of this. I think it greatly helps people to remain in their homes here that do live on the margins. And I think Ryan brought up a really good point, and I had been wondering about this for a while, about year-round rental, people who rent their homes year-round qualifying for this as well.
I definitely think that legislation would be worth pursuing.
We should look into this, but we are in a housing crisis here, and this helps our domiciled residents. So that's why I'm
Absolutely.
for it. But that said, I am for keeping it at 20% for both reasons that you said, Nancy. And I had been thinking about the change in the sudden change brought about by COVID here, and we really need to see how that shakes out before we can do anything else.
Right. And if I may say, so the exemption amounted last year to $857. Mm-hmm. Without the exemption, if you voted it out, which rarely happens, once it's in, it's usually in for good, you would be telling the domiciled people, okay, next year your bill is going to be $857 higher. Now, if you voted a 25% or the maximum 35%, what's more politically palatable? You telling people, all right, you're going to pay $857 more next year, or you're going to be paying $1,400 more next year. So that's why I would like to see the board stay at the 20% until we see the shakeout in the next year of all the results of the pandemic.
It was my understanding on a median home, though, for a non-domiciled resident, non-resident taxpayer, basically, that on a median home price, it was only a couple $100.
It should be about $300 on the nose.
Sorry, a couple $100 difference on their tax bill because the non-domiciled outweigh 65 to 35% or so, something like that.
Well, the exemption amount is the same across the board, whether you're assessed at $300 or $3 million. The $110,664 last year gets subtracted from your assessment, and then you pay tax on the balance. So it's the same for everyone.
Sure.
And it's just that, if you have a $300,000 house, your bill is just that much lower because it's $775 per thousand. So it benefits, the lower the value of the house, the more the benefit you get, because maybe you have a $2,000 tax bill and you take $850 off of that. That's pretty good. But if you have an $800,000 house and your tax bill is, $6,000 and you get $800 off of $6,000, not so much a benefit. But pretty much everybody is digging this program.
Right. Well, my point is the people who are paying more as a result of this program on a median priced house, the actual increase in their property tax is only a few $100s.
Right, and it's just because it's based on dollars per thousand. If you have a median priced house, yeah, it's not that bad. But if you've got the $1 million house, it can be $600, $800, $1,200 more, just because your house is
The
worth that much
$1 million
more.
house then, I guess.
Right.
Okay, so Susan has her hand raised. Susan Rutherford.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the president of the Wellfleet Seasonal Residents Association. So I have two quick questions. One is, I was struck that Eastham made a decision not to do this, in part because their ratio of resident to non-resident homeowners is about 50-50. So I would hope that the board just keeps track of our percentage. We don't know whether it will change this year because of COVID, or whether that will be something that stays higher, stays more even going forward or not. So my first concern is to make sure the board just has Nancy keep track of what the percentage of domiciled, not domiciled is, and if it really shifts considerably, then I think this has to be considered. That's point one. And then the second point briefly is just a reminder. I understand the concern about the increase in costs of housing here, and our organization has really helped to support the affordable housing. But I'd like to point out that at least in my neighborhood in South Wellfleet, all of the houses that are owned by non-resident taxpayers were bought pretty much from residents. So this is not a neighborhood with, where there was a huge building of lots of new houses on land, but people sold. And so I think the problem is, and this is countrywide, is that when people come in and want to buy, they do push up the prices, but it's also the people who owned those houses before who make the decision to make as much money as they possibly can, understandably, by selling to non-residents. So I just want to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Let's see, we've got the board again. So Helen, I think you had your hand up first.
Yeah, quick question before I make a point. A man's voice came in a couple of exchanges ago who said something about, that would be a couple of hundred or something. Who was that? Was that our town accountant? Who said that?
That was Ryan Curley.
Yeah,
He said
sorry.
$300.
Yep.
Okay, so just to remind people, as Nancy said last year, the rate for all residential, for everybody went up from 7.48 for everybody to 7.75. So the taxes went up for everybody. And I am going to, when we get to future concerns, suggest that Ryan write a really nice letter to our legislators after finding out if there's some way this might be in committee already about getting people who rent year-round to have a tax break. I think that's a good idea. And the last thing I wanted to say is, for those people who are truly in financial trouble, and there are a lot of them here, we have tax breaks. And we have two different programs that can help people who don't have enough money to pay their taxes. And you can ask Nancy Baer about that. So it's not as if there's no help out there, whatever we do with these classifications. Thank you.
May I respond one thing, Michael?
Sure.
The tax help outside of the residential exemption is we have a taxation aid program where people have sent in voluntary contributions to a fund, and people can apply for it and are given awards based on various criteria. But I think the income limits might be the same as fuel assistance, and you have to be, maybe they lowered the age to 50 or 55, but it's supposed to be elderly. But so that's for older people, and then there's also the tax work-off program, which is currently defunct because of COVID, where people who were, I think, 60 and older, able to work off some of their taxes by working in town departments. And that's all well and good, but there's no help out there for people in their 40s or 30s or early 50s. So And there's senior exemptions available to those who are 65 or older. So this is really the only way outside of some sort of legislation being passed where people who are less than 50, 55, 60 are able to get any help.
Ryan?
Sorry I interrupted you earlier, Mr. Chair. So just back of the envelope math, if approximately 65% of the houses are owned by non-residents, when the tax is split between all of them, the median increase is pretty much $300 on the nose. It's like $299.95 or something like that. So it's only, it's like $300. And to a resident receiving a tax exemption of $875, let's say they're a first-time homeowner, I mean, that goes a long way towards making their mortgage. And it's something that we really need to keep in mind if we want to retain first-time homeowners as any type of owners within the town of Wellfleet. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Justina?
Yeah, I want to applaud Ryan for his back of the envelope math. I remember last year saying the average increase for a non-resident was the price of a good meal out with a bottle of wine, and the reduction for a median $300,000 or $400,000 modest home for a family in Wellfleet was more. And so I would like to call the question for this important measure for the families of Wellfleet year-round to help them.
Okay,
Calling the question.
Yep.
I move to approve the adoption of a residential tax exemption of 20% for fiscal year.
1 second, Helen asked for two different motions.
Oh, okay. Well, Helen, you want to make the motion?
So
Sure. Janet, do you want to make the motion? Go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm ready. I
Hello?
move to approve the adoption of a residential tax exemption.
Second.
First one.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote?
Janet, aye.
For FY 21.
Well, I'm going to
Janet,
make
can
it
you
with
do
the
that
20
over again, please, and put in the year?
So you want me, all right. Helen, when you want something done, you really should do it yourself. Okay. I move to approve the adoption of a residential tax exemption
I'm happy to
for
do it.
2021.
Second.
Second.
Janet,
Helen, aye.
Janet, aye.
Justina, aye.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm voting for it.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Michael, aye.
Right.
Ryan, aye.
Helen, did you vote aye?
Ryan persuaded me.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Ryan persuaded
I
me.
move that the residential tax exemption for the year 2021
I move to-
be 20%.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote?
Helen, aye.
Janet, aye.
Justina, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Michael,
just-
aye. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Great.
on both. Okay, open space exemption.
Right. We have extensive open space in the hands of the Wellfleet Conservation Trust, the Audubon Society. There's numerous people that have put, what do you call it? Conservation restrictions on their property. So I think we're pretty much covered there.
Okay.
But
So that open space
That just-
exemption is like a property tax exemption if people designate that, but we don't have that exemption.
We don't have it now, but it's the Board of Assessors' opinion that that option is covered through other programs.
Okay.
So the board doesn't need to take a vote on this. You can just discuss it, or you can take a vote. Either
Helen?
way.
Yes, I move that we take no action on option 2 and option 3.
Okay. I agree with that. There's so much open space in Wellfleet. I think we're over 70% protected land, something like that. So I would say let's take no action.
I would agree.
Okay, option 3, small business exemption.
Right. Most of our businesses are considered
I have a
small.
motion on the, I have a motion on,
That's right. You did option 2 and option 3.
Oh, to take
yes,
no,
I have a motion on the floor.
to take no action?
Yeah,
I
on
thought we
option
don't have
2
to
and
make-
option 3. Which
So we can just take no action without a
Yeah.
motion. So we don't have to second it.
I'm making a motion to make, yes, but I'm making a motion to make it more clearer, okay?
So you want us to vote to take no action?
Did somebody second it?
No.
No, because we don't really have to. We
That
can
was
just
my
take
motion.
no action.
Okay,
Fine.
So
It's a
we
way
don't
of
have-
clarifying it, but whatever you want to do.
that's fine. I don't think we have to vote.
Okay, take no action.
Okay, so option 3, the small business exemption. Most of our businesses are small businesses. So you were saying, Nancy?
Well, it would exempt probably almost everybody, and then it would place the burden, because if you voted that up to 10%, which means you could vote 1% or 2%, up to 10%, that's going to shift the burden of the commercial tax burden to the handful of employers that are not considered small, which is probably like, well, not anymore, but the movie theater, maybe Cumberland Farms, maybe the marketplace.
Okay. Yep, I got you. Just for the sake of expediency, does anybody want to take action on this?
I would just have one quick question, if I could,
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So the small business exemption is for businesses with less than 10 employees and an assessed value of less than $1 million.
Correct.
Is there any way to reduce those amounts to make an exemption for, very small businesses?
That would be state law. That's where this
Okay.
small business exemption comes from.
I think the issue here is we're not talking about home occupations that are operating on residential properties. So you're really shifting the burden to only commercial properties. Is that correct, Nancy?
Yeah, it's going to be, well, I do get a list every year from the state of businesses that are registered with them, and there's quite a few carpenters, plumbers, shellfishermen that register with the state, whether it's under a DBA or for whatever reason. And most of them, like I said, except for back in the good times when the movie theater was operating and all that, 1 and 2 man, 3 man operations, landscapers, all that. So most of our, 96% maybe more would be considered small. So the exemption, as Harry Turkanian once described it, would be basically the price of a large pizza. So, $38 or something like that off of your taxes.
Okay.
But it just like the commercial, splitting the commercial rate between residential, shifting the burden to the commercial, this would shift the burden to those businesses that are not considered, that have over 10 employees and are valued at over $1 million, which there's very, very few.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I would kind of like to see some numbers. I mean, you've just said it's about the size of the price of a pizza. So I'm happy to just take no action on this again. Anyone else?
I agree.
Helen?
I agree.
Yeah, I've got my hand up.
I
yeah.
called you.
For the same reason that I need to say something. You asked me if we had anything else to say.
Yeah, I said go ahead, Helen. I said go ahead.
I really think it's important to keep it even, because people's businesses fluctuate from year to year, which was my point also about residents. In other words, people's finances function. So I don't think we want to be like asking it to be a lower amount, given that somebody's proceeds for 1 year may be high and the next year may be terrible, like this year. Thank you.
And I think it would just complicate things for our assessor too.
Yes, it would.
Okay, so let's take no action. Thank you, Nancy. I think that we can move on here.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
so now we have COVID-19 updates and recommendations. Do we have anything?
I'll just say that next Tuesday, September 15th at 10 a.m. is our next emergency management team call.
Next Tuesday? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess we'll
More
wait
updates then.
Tuesday, 'cause I don't have anything. Anyone else? Helen?
I do.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah. So just on the subject, having gone to a number of neighborhood association meetings, people that are on the water, and listening to the nightmare that's been unfolding with people parking illegally without permits to a much greater extent than other years. With 2020 hindsight, I think the way we should have allocated parking at Whitecrest would have been to have an attendant in the larger lot and have the smaller lot closed, so that there would have been enough extra room at that beach, because we wanted there to be less people at the other beaches. So 2020 hindsight, I really felt that strongly after going to the meetings I've been to for the last couple of weeks. Thank you.
Mike Hurley, Chief?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I've been neglected to make a quick announcement. Back in August, MEMA made a shipment to the town of Wellfleet of over 6,000 pieces of equipment, face masks, face shields, goggles, and alike, hand sanitizer for town government, the schools, and to keep first responders safe. So I just wanted to get that out there, that we are well stocked and well prepared going into the fall and winter.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, here, seeing no others, I'm going to move on to board and committee appointments.
Yeah.
On-site engineering, final report now. So it looks like this is not in the right spot. Is that right, Courtney? On-site engineering?
It is in the right spot. It's part of the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force.
Right.
It's part of the updates.
Okay, it's a committee update. Okay.
Yep. And I'm
Sorry.
working on, that's okay. I'm working on unmuting all the participants right now.
Okay, that's great. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'd like whoever feels comfortable introducing this.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Mike Travato, Assistant Town Administrator. Thank you for having me. The town, in conjunction with the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force, received a district local technical assistant grant from the Department of Housing and Community Development through the Cape Cod Commission to conduct a study to determine the best options in siting for wastewater infrastructure for the planned housing, affordable housing development at 95 Lawrence Road, and will be part of the RFP as an attachment. The study has also been forwarded by Hillary to the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Planning Committee for their review. But the purpose of tonight's presentation is to give the Select Board a chance to hear from the consultant and ask any preliminary questions they might have about the study. On-site engineering and Baer Engineering was selected as the consulting team for this project through a competitive bidding process. Joining us this evening is David Formato from On-site Engineering, who will make a presentation of the study for the select boards and the public's information. So David, if you want to make that presentation.
Does he need to share his screen?
No.
Okay.
Okay, David.
He's unmuted. Unless
Looks
there's
like he
another.
muted himself.
Oh,
Or he is
okay.
muted now.
There we go.
David?
Maybe his mic isn't working.
David, is your mic working?
I think Ray is trying to get a hold of him.
Welcome to Zoom.
Yep. Slows things down a little bit.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting, I just want to also thank Lane McElroy, who worked with Dan Horton putting this grant together. So this study was done totally, at the cost of the grant.
David, what I would do is where you can unmute yourself, there's an arrow. Just make sure your microphone is properly checked off. There's maybe a couple of options. I would try another one.
Is that better?
Yes.
There we go.
There.
Look at that tech stuff. Yeah, there's like 4 different microphones here. That's crazy. Sorry about that. So,
yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Dave Formato with On-Site Engineering here to give you guys a quick overview of the study we did. As Mike had mentioned, we were commissioned to do this study based on for the 95 Lawrence Road housing development project to kind of assess what options the town may or may not have, and including a nitrogen removal component to that RFP for developers that are looking to put affordable housing on that site. So the thought process was, I'll just give like a real quick overview of the report. My understanding is the board has the draft report as well as our executive summary, kind of boiling everything down. So I'm just going to go through like the high level stuff and then open it up for questions, from everybody on your end. So as Mike said, we were asked to provide an analysis of what options you have relative to nitrogen removal if development on this site were to go forward. The project was commissioned, again, as part of that affordable housing development. Bowler, who was part of our team, had previously been involved with the project, doing some conceptual layouts for the town in terms of sizing and configurations of the site, incorporating the ball field as well as the water tower, working around those structures that are currently on the site. We did use that as kind of the basis for our evaluation in terms of what could and couldn't be sited on that site in terms of fit and also sizing. So as part of our work, we were tasked with looking at essentially three scenarios for nitrogen removal. The first one would be if a traditional IA removal Title V sized nitrogen removal system were put on the development itself. So just taking the septic system that would be sited for that project and removing some amount of nitrogen. The project itself is planned for about 9,900 gallons per day of septic system effluent. So in theory, that site could actually support a straight Title V system. Again, the concept was to really see what implications there may be with putting some additional nitrogen removal beyond just a traditional septic system. So that was the first option. The second option we were tasked with looking at would be is if that concept was expanded a little bit and the surrounding municipal parcels were incorporated into what would constitute essentially like a mini sewer district system. So we looked at the flow from the 95 Lawrence Road development, the adjacent school, the elementary school, the fire station, and the police station. And what we did was we took a look at the current septic systems serving those existing parcels, what their capacity is, and then we added that to the 95 Lawrence Road. And based upon those Title V flows, that option would be about 25,000 gallons per day of septic system effluent that would need to be treated. Some of you may be aware that the state actually regulates flows that are above 10,000 gallons per day differently. They actually require a groundwater discharge permit. So you're held to a higher standard of treatment, particularly for nitrogen removal. Whereas a typical IA system, you get maybe 25 milligrams per liter as your target effluent. For nitrogen, a groundwater discharge permit is limited to 10. So there is a significant reduction in the allowable nitrogen based upon those higher flows. And then the third task that we were given to look at was if that mini collection and sewer district was expanded even further to include the surrounding residential homes. Was that feasible? What would that look like in terms of cost, complexity, that type of stuff? So given those that directive, what we did was we essentially prepared RFPs to talk to different technology vendors who produce nitrogen removal systems. We sent out those RFPs. We received pricing, configuration, sizing back from them conceptually. We then used that information to develop our analysis, which included sizing of the systems, approximate configurations. Well, we did use the Bowler figures to create some schematic layouts of what those systems may look like when they're sited on the 95 Lawrence Road parcel. And then we also did some various technological assessments of different leaching systems in terms of what they would look like, how big they would be for the three different scenarios considered. And then the last part of the analysis that we did was when we were looking at the second and third options, we had to come up with approximate configurations and costs of sewage collection. Obviously, if you're going to connect these existing homes and municipal parcels into that treatment system, you have to get the sewage from one place to another. So we did do some basic analysis on topography and sizing of collection system components to develop that aspect of the cost to make sure that everyone understands the cost implications that just go beyond treatment. So that was essentially the work that we did, and that's the report that you have presents all those findings in terms of, again, schematically showing what they look like, and then also costs. We looked at not only capital costs, but also operations costs. So there were some considerations given to, what would be the impacts to the town and or developers if they were to put on, let's say, the larger system at, 35,000 gallons per day from an operational annual cost perspective. So with that, I just thought I'd give you that, like I said, high level view, and I'm happy to turn it over and get any questions from, any members of the board or public. Thank you.
Ryan's going to stand up.
Yeah. So I've read the executive summary. I've read the entire draft. And basically my conclusion is that you only did that we're missing half of the answer. It's as if somebody turned in their homework and did like the first page of an assignment and missed the second page. What we are missing, which is why we were requesting a nitrogen reducing septic systems, is how much nitrogen could they remove? What is their respective performance? And what is the cost per kilogram of nitrogen that's being removed? And I mean, basically the reason why this is an issue is because Wellfleet has to get its wastewater plans together. There has to be a way of addressing all the wastewater issues with the various estuaries within the town. The Duck Creek, which this is part of the Duck Creek watershed, is going to be the most problematic, or maybe the second most problematic area in the town of Wellfleet. in terms of addressing this issue. And I mean, all that we have is basically what the costs are. But we have nothing as to, their performance. If you say, all right, it's 10 milligrams per liter with the groundwater discharge, that's literally the only amount that you've cited as towards the amount of nitrogen that's being released as part of this. And I don't know if the board has received it, but I did forward a message from Scott. Regarding the basically what the different things might come out as in terms of the price for the kilograms of nitrogen being removed, and it's for the largest system, which includes the surrounding area. He calculated it around $150 per kilogram. And that is by far the lowest number that I've seen in terms of the price that's going to cost the town to address some of the nitrogen issues that we have to address. I mean, it's not an option for us to address it. It's something that we're required to do. And I think that this just kind of misses the point as it is right now. You just have, all right, these are the costs. Which one's the cheapest? Meh. And then that's it. So that's it for me.
Do you want to respond, Dave?
Yeah, no, Ryan, no, thanks for the feedback. I will say that in terms of the report, there was a very detailed RFP that was issued that didn't really go into requesting that we look at any of that information. We certainly can do it and happy to do it, but again, it wasn't really asked of us to take it to that level based on the RFP.
Okay, Helen, you got your hand up?
Yes. Ryan brought up a couple of my own concerns. First of all, a question through you, Mike, to Mr. Formato. At any point, were you told about the wastewater committee's research on this very issue of how to measure and deal with wastewater up on the hill there? And you were tasked with the 3 different options, but they, from everything I know, having dragged my brain through it 4 times, I wish Scott Horsley was here. He was the consultant working with the wastewater committee, or is the consultant. We are looking, staring at the headlights, bearing down on us of having to mitigate wastewater pollution in our watershed. We have to do it. It's called complying with the 208 plan. And the third task that you were given is the one that will get us the most credits. Plus, it'll mitigate more wastewater, which we want to do, not because we get more credits, but because we want to mitigate wastewater, right? So my question to you is, were you at any point told about this activity going on parallel to your own by the wastewater committee?
We were not. Yes, I think we were working in a vacuum on that, like as in we were working on an independent track.
So if I can just interject.
Nobody's bad here. It happens frequently.
Now, if I could just interject.
Wait, who's talking?
Mike Travato.
The original.
Who's talking, please? Oh, hi. I can't tell.
Mike Travato. The original RFP that went out for this, the scope of work, the specs related to that, I asked Hillary to work with whoever she needed to help draft what we needed to get out of this particular grant opportunity. And so this probably doesn't give you the drill down that you may want going forward here. This was more designed more for the developer to just kind of give some options here so we could see and then expand out from there. So the scope of this particular project wasn't to go drilled down as deeply, and I'm not a technical person here, so what I know about wastewater is not at the highest level. So, and unfortunately, Hillary couldn't be here tonight. With apologies, she couldn't make tonight's meeting. Would much rather have her speak to this, but this particular report is answering specific scope that we put into this. So we certainly, if there's additional information that is important for the town going forward, we certainly could look at additional addendums to this, or whether through on-site or other means to get additional information. So this was a starting point for this to help get this RFP out on the street for the.
Thank you, Mike.
So I would just say that it seems like
Mike,
Helen.
I would like to finish, please, if I may.
Okay, Helen, hold on a second, Helen.
Yes, sorry.
You have like a 4-second delay.
Question.
That's fine. Just wait 1 second. You have a 4-second delay, so no one's interrupting. It's just that you're hearing things 4 seconds after they happen. Just so you know that. Okay?
Okay.
Go ahead, Helen.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. What is important here in terms of us not ever having to have a giant wastewater treatment facility at the transfer station, which would cost way, way more than we ever want to spend, and would be, in my opinion, which is pretty educated at this point, environmentally wrong. But that is Plan B. And whatever dealing with the wastewater on Lawrence Road and in the vicinity costs, I feel that we should absolutely do the very best job we could, no matter what the money is, if it works. One of the things that I'm missing here, and I did read this through once carefully, maybe I didn't catch it, was what the kind of track record of all these different systems are. In other words, has, System 1 been used for how many years? What's its track record? The cost is important, but we need to know how well it does, how much nitrogen it removes, and also how long it's been used, how effective it's been for all 3 levels of gallons per day. Thank you.
Okay, so I was just going to say that, what we have here, this RFP is a good starting point, and getting to the point where we take these systems, and this seems like something that could be under the purview of our wastewater committee, to find out from each of these companies, basically, what the nitrogen reduction is in these systems that we may be interested in installing, and what the cost per kilogram would be in those. And then also to look into, once you narrow those down, into the longevity or the effectiveness of these systems as it pertains to upkeep, maintenance, and cost, future costs.
Track record
system, I guess. So I think, Kurt's here, so I'd like to hear from Kurt. He's had his hand up for a little bit, and then I'll call on Justina. Go ahead, Kurt.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mr. Chair. First, I do want to mention that Scott was involved in, Scott Horsley, our consultant, was involved in in this process. The systems that were selected and reviewed all have pretty similar high nitrogen removal. They get into as little as about 5 milligrams per liter, which is about the best that any of these systems can do. The nitro system, the nitric system, those were also evaluated. This consultant actually did do a very detailed analysis of the life cycle costs of each of the systems, so that information is available, and they're removing at about the same level of nitrogen. So it's not like there's a missed opportunity here. The systems that were evaluated are the ones that Scott Horsley would feel comfortable, and the DEP is comfortable in recommending for these enhanced IA systems. As Ryan mentioned, the Amphidrome system for a full build out of 3,500 gallons per day flow gets the nitrogen cost down to $148 per kilogram, compared with just a system installed for the 95 Lawrence Road project, it would be about $520 a kilogram. So as you increase the amount of capacity in the system, the cost per unit of nitrogen being removed goes down quite a bit. Also, the cost per amount of flow being managed goes down. So there is a pretty big advantage to scale, and the cost of going to that larger system is about almost $2 million additional cost. So to get that level of removal somehow or another, the real question is who's going to pay the additional $2 million? I mean, the project itself, just having a standalone IA system just to meet Lawrence Road's needs, came in at a life cycle cost of about $1,038,000. So that difference is something that the town's going to have to look at in terms of how to finance. But as far as the technology evaluation, as far as the Amphidrome system itself, the track record, DEP concurrence with it being installed, and those sorts of issues, I think the report is dead on track there. Scott did not have any concerns about this particular system compared to the others that they reviewed in the report. So I think as far as the wastewater committee is concerned, the report is a very good report, and Scott did the additional work to kind of break it down in terms of what the cost per kilogram removed would look like. And again, each of these technologies is removing a similar amount and getting us down to about the 5 or 6 milligrams per liter, which is on par with what a large sewage treatment system would produce. So these are on par with standard large scale sewage treatment. So it's a fabulous systems in the right ballpark. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the amounts of removal for the larger system at 35,000 gallons per day would amount to about a third or almost a half of what our target removal level is in the Duck Creek watershed. So it's a very, very significant reduction overall for that watershed. So that's about all I have. Thank you.
Justina?
Well, my main comment was Kurt has his hand up. And we're lucky he's here. And lucky in general to have Scott working with us and have the wastewater committee. And Ryan, I appreciated your comments. And I think that's my little plug, since Maria Broadbent is here tonight. We are volunteers. Scott's a professional tackling these difficult and often big price tag issues. And it's nice to have you aboard, Maria, with your 30 years of experience. Looking forward to having you help us. Thanks.
Thank you, Justina. And if I may, when you get to the point of actually putting the RFP out to construct a system, you have some options, and I'm sure this is probably been discussed on the folks that are working most closely with this, but you have some options in what your review criteria is for the participating bidders or proposers on this. So some of the things that Ryan is talking about, not seeing some of that data, maybe some of the things that you include as evaluation criteria when this actually goes out to bid. So it's not that the work wasn't done or that we missed the boat or didn't do our homework. I think there's still an opportunity at the next phase of the project to make sure that you have some performance measures, if you will, to be able to evaluate what the various proposers are submitting to you.
Okay, I have just a couple questions for Kurt. And assuming we went with like the larger system, that would be a residential residential property tie-in in the surrounding area. The means of getting those people tied into the system seem like they may be complicated when there's potential burden on those property owners and not on other property owners in the town. Or is there any idea about, how that would function? I mean, are we going to build a big system and then have it optional for people to plug into it if they want or don't want? Or is it going to be the type of situation where when a septic fails, they'd be required to connect to that system? Those are technical problems that have to be worked out in the future, but I just wanted to raise that sort of as a concern, because as we sort of integrate all these solutions together to come up with an overall wastewater plan for the town, we need to make sure that we are equitable in how we address this to property owners that may be abutting this, that could be required to be brought into the system versus the people who may not be quite in reach or downhill or something like that. So I don't know if you have anything on that. That's more of a policy question, but
sure.
I just figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Mr. Chair. I think the reality is we have a DEP requirement to make reductions. So in a case like this, where it's not something that I would look at as optional in terms of those, if the town were to go ahead and, move forward on the larger scale option, you'd be expecting that those homeowners would be required to connect, and the town would have to be the one financing the additional incremental cost. The benefit to the watershed is a benefit that the entire town's receiving relative to compliance with our DEP requirements to reduce nitrogen load. If we were building a sewer system through the same area, we would be requiring people to connect to that system. Otherwise, you're not getting any nitrogen reduction. In terms of the residential homeowners, the only other question I think deserves some more evaluation is whether the same type of nitrix or basically the level of nitrogen removal that's in this particular system is the same as what you'd have for an enhanced IA just for the homeowner. So if the homeowner just put in a system for themselves, they would get that removal. I think the answer coming out of this study looks like it's significantly cheaper to do it as a collection rather than for each individual homeowner, because the system cost for just 95 Lawrence at a much smaller scale, is $520 a kilogram versus the $148 per kilogram for the large scale system. So I'm kind of answering my own question, but it's cheaper to have those homeowners tie into a larger system. But as you allude to, Mr. Chair, the big question in the room is who's going to pay? I mean, how does that cost get borne? And my own sense of it is, and we obviously have to have a lot more discussions around this. My own sense of it is that we'd be asking the taxpayer in the town of Wellfleet to subsidize or to come up with the funding for this particular component as part of the wastewater plan. Keep in mind that one of the things that we were hoping to accomplish, the wastewater committee was hoping to accomplish, and certainly Scott, with this additional effort, was to do an evaluation of a very specific set of technologies, which is the enhanced IA and sort of a community-based wastewater system. The overall wastewater plan is going to include a number of other technologies that we're going to be on basically in a demonstration mode. Things like permeable reactive barriers and a variety of other technologies to get to our target for the Wellfleet Harbor as a whole. So I think it's instructive that we have an example on the table that we can look at and start to get real about what the implementation is going to look like, what the financing is going to look like. I also want to raise one other thing, and that is the DEP will require, whether it's this technology or others, what they call a responsible party, which is basically some kind of you can think of it like a wastewater department that's going to oversee implementation, it's going to oversee measurement, performance evaluation, reporting to DEP, and that sort of thing. So we're starting to take a baby step in the direction with just this particular example of kind of what the Wellfleet wastewater plan is probably going to start to look like. And these are some things we'll also need to be considering.
Okay, I think there's some funding from the county through the short-term rental tax that has been set aside for wastewater grants that could be applied for that may help with these sort of subsidizations. I'm not sure exactly how those work, but I know the state rep and state senator attached to that short-term rental legislation that passed a couple of years ago, a component of funding for wastewater management on Cape Cod. So this may be some way to offset some costs.
Yes, and I think Wellfleet's the amount that Wellfleet's getting, I think, is on the order of about $500,000 from the short-term rental tax. There are other grant sources that we'll pursue. Absolutely. Justina's, the town of Wellfleet's representative to the wastewater fund, where we could apply, since this is an innovative technology, we could apply for a grant and possibly get it, get the entire cost waived. So we'll be pursuing some of those things, but I just want to raise the thought here that this is where the town is going to have to start to come up with funding to ultimately comply with our requirements with DEP.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. I'm just going to go on to Elaine right now, and then Helen and Ryan to finish up. Elaine?
Hi, thank you. Good evening. I want to thank the Select Board for their careful reading of this report on a very short amount of time. And I think some of the things, some of the things that Ryan brought up that could be fairly simple to clarify and add to this report, I'd love to talk with Mike and others about potentially, getting the basic information that people really want as part of this study. But I do have to say, as we were starting to look into this as part of our project, it was really pretty hard to get information. We would contact Eastham and say, what kind of system do you have? Well, we don't really know, call so-and-so, and same with Truro. So there is a lot of excellent information in this report that's been gathered together. So I would love to see it, if we can expand it a little bit to include some of the things that Ryan was talking about, to document, the performance of some of these systems, and keep going. But thank you for looking at this so carefully.
Thanks, Elaine. Helen?
Yeah, question to Kurt. I thought, at your last wastewater committee meeting, And can you refresh my memory? Did the committee actually vote in preference of one option or another in terms of the amount of septic waste taken in from the amount of sources? I can't remember. I can remember a thorough review of the different ways it could happen. But was there an actual vote on this?
No, actually, all we did was review the
To recommend
technologies.
something?
Yeah, all we did was review the technologies, which is to, Elaine's and to Ryan's point. We did do a thorough evaluation of what was being looked at in terms of removal rates, and we know that these is being considered as state of the art, and that the experience of the vendors is very good. So we were comfortable with the technologies that Dave's team was looking at, and the removal rates. And then Scott did the additional work to look at what the cost of removal would be for the various technologies. So we can, I think help Dave get that table into their report and, clean it up so that it's complete, per Ryan's comments. But we did not vote on a particular technology. We just kind of looked at them and said, these are all good.
No.
Okay, Ryan.
Excuse me, Kurt. My question was, which option did you prefer, if any? My memory is you didn't choose, one of those degrees of gallons per day.
Right, 99, 25,000 or
That was my
35,000. Sorry, no, we did not. We're just looking at this for the first
my
time.
memory is you didn't vote. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan. Comment?
Yes, I'm just wondering if there's any sort of direction that's required of us at this point. How much more will this subject be explored? I don't know the story on the grant, if there's still grant funding to complete it. I'm just kind of wondering what are the next steps.
From our perspective, this particular scope of work has been completed by Onsite and Bowler, and that's what this report is. Obviously, they can fine-tune the final report for you, but this is pretty much the end of the scope of this particular project as it is. We may be able to add to this. We haven't expended a full amount of the grant, but we would probably have to go back to the commission for an addendum to the scope, just to get their approval on this. If we do want to expand on this report, there is a time limit to this particular grant, so we'd have to just go back and look at that first. But I guess probably would like to get more input on what exactly the next scope for this. If there is an expansion of this particular report that's necessary, maybe through the wastewater committee, we can certainly talk about that and determine the next steps as it relates to that.
Okay. So yeah, I think as far as getting the nitrogen numbers that Ryan is looking for, is that something that Scott can do, that Scott has done or can do? And then what else, Ryan, were you looking for besides the amount of nitrogen and the cost per kilogram?
The respective performances of the systems. There is a big difference between a system that's treating to 10 milligrams to a system treating for 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, is that something that you think wastewater could do to get that information and put together?
Yeah, we have that, Mike. We already have that.
Okay. So would you guys be able to put together a little bit of a report to maybe coincide with this about that, just so the information is sort of put together? And
yeah, we'll make sure that Scott circles back with Dave to get that information in the report.
Okay. And if there's grant funding available still for this particular issue, maybe you can work with Mike Travato and see if that fits the mold in I don't know if Scott needs additional resources or anything like that. So
yeah, I think that's I think how we pursue grant funding is sort of a sidebar conversation we ought to have. And we've got an example now. I mean, the beautiful thing is that the report now gives us, it gives us the numbers, it gives us the size and scope of what a project would look like to be able to go get grant funding for it. We didn't have that before.
I was just talking about Mike Travato had said that there is additional grant money still from that grant that they received, and maybe to be it could maybe be applied to the additional research or putting together a report of that stuff. But whatever, I don't want to get into the weeds about it. But
we could talk offline about this next week relative to this existing grant funding.
Okay, so I think we can get all that in here so that there's one report with both those all that information together. I think it would probably be beneficial for everyone to see as far as the selection of a system. Okay, I think Helen, is your hand still up, or is it? I'd like to.
No, I just want to reiterate something Kurt Robert said. Most of this information, I don't think we need to even get more money for, because I took in a lot of it at that wastewater meeting. So let's see what they have first and have it shown to the select board. Okay? Because I think that a lot of the questions are already answered. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing I was wondering is if it would be good to have a select board member. We had one member as a liaison to the 94th Lawrence Housing Task Force. That was Kathleen. I was wondering if they would like us to remain having a liaison to that committee, or what? Is Elaine still here?
Yes.
Sure. No, I mean, we're very fortunate to have Kathleen continuing as an at-large member at Dan Hort's appointing, but we would welcome having a select board member.
Yeah, I think it would be good. Maybe we'll put that on another agenda.
Okay.
And do that or something like that. All right. Let's move on from this. Thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate this information. I think it's really valuable. And I welcome any opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, or get two birds stoned at once, whatever the sentence is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just, want to say that we're certainly willing to, work with Scott Horsley and develop a comprehensive report that meets the town's needs and provides everything in one place. So I think that's a good suggestion, and we will, reconvene with Mike and Hillary and provide what the next steps are.
Okay, thank you. I have one hand up.
No, that's for the next one.
That's for the next
one. Next agenda item.
Let's move on to the next one. I'm ready to go. I lost my agenda during that whole time. All right. So, the fall tax bill inserts, recycling committee. Fall tax bill inserts. That's what we're on right now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. This is Lydia Vivante speaking, and I wonder if you have an image of it available?
I can. It'll take me a couple minutes. One second.
Oh, well, that's okay.
It is online and in their packet, so yeah, just give me a second, Lydia.
Sure. Wellfleet Recycling Committee was inspired by the Take Care Cape Cod environmental campaign, and we chose the images that Courtney will share because they square with our message. They're also fun and colorful. We're hoping that people will hang on to it and maybe stick it on their fridge. So the first, it's Drink Cape Cod Tap. Wellfleet has great municipal tap water. We want to encourage people to refill their water bottles. Next one, if it's your dog, then it's your duty. Yes, you got to clean up after your dog. And finally, hide your garbage in a trash can, not don't hide it, throwing it in the woods or on the street. It should be hidden in a trash can. We hope we can print these in color. The Public Works Department has some funding in reserve for recycling committee printed matter and educational materials. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. That looks great. Is that it for
Ryan and Janet have their hands up.
okay. I don't see the hands right now. Okay, I see them. Okay, Janet.
Just got him up. So Lydia, I think, and maybe the board too, I think it would be a good idea, and this is for future discussion too, is to get homeowners that rent and real estate agents that rent to start having things like this given out or in the homes that are rented, so visitors see these kinds of things too.
Sure, that'd be a great idea. It just means, we can print more.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk to the real estate agents and the homeowners.
Thank you. I know the Chamber of Commerce does have some of posters from this campaign in their office in South Wellfleet.
Okay, Ryan.
Yes. So I really like these. The graphic design's really good for them. Simple, effective. I would just say the only thing it's missing is the people throwing trash out of the side of their windows as they're driving.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to, what can we do? That is a part of what happens here, especially in the good weather when you can keep your windows open all the time.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, even like if you drive on the divided part of Route 6 or further up Cape, I mean, they have the sheriffs out there every 2 days picking up trash all the time. And it's a big issue to me, at least. I don't know if it is for anybody else, but I'm not a fan of people throwing trash out the side of their windows. Thank you.
No. Yeah.
And just one more thing, the masks and the gloves are a real problem too, because people tend to just drop them, in the parking lot before they get in their car. So that's a real concern as well. A lot of those blue masks are made with, plastic materials, and they find their way to the water and to the ocean, and bad.
Okay, Justina.
First of all, I love this, the graphics, and I'm childish enough to love that if it's your dog, then it's your duty. But I do have to say, I have a couple of issues with the Drink Cape Cod tap. It would be Wellfleet tap, and not everybody, unfortunately, does have access to perfect water. And so maybe some other options could be considered until all that gets ironed out. Ryan had some ideas. But I do know from my tenure on the Water Commission that there are homes that that's an issue for. So maybe I'm just throwing that out there.
I could respond real quick. Before COVID, we were installing bottle filling stations. The town was, and as you know, there's one at the senior center. There's a couple at town hall. There's one at the recreation department who's been really great about embracing refilling bottles. And so that's, the tap water that we're talking about. I know that some people have salt in their water. There are filters that you can have in your house that are, that might be something that we could find grants for too, for people to improve the water that they have with filters.
Right. The filters won't take care of nitrates, as I'm sure you know. It's up to you. You're the recycling committee, but it's just a thought. Mm-hmm. I love the work that you've done to make the town water accessible, and the fountains and the grants you've gotten and all that good work. So I don't want to be Scrooge McDuck here. I'm just raising those.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe one suggestion would be like something like use like reusable water bottles or something like that. No single-use bottles or something. I don't know. Anyways, I think it's great, and I think unless there's anything else, we'll move on to the next thing.
We have to move this.
You have to vote on this.
Oh, we have to vote on this. Oh,
You have to move to, approve the inserts.
I move to approve the fall tax bill insert for the recycling committee.
Second. Good.
Roll call vote.
Helen, I.
Janet, I.
Helen, I.
Janet, I. Helen, you've got to get yourself a new microphone and camera. Sorry.
She has a delay, so we just need to.
But why?
Give a couple of seconds.
Internet. It's an internet issue.
Yeah.
Michael,
I don't know. Hold on. I said I.
Yes.
4 times.
We heard you, Helen. Everyone says aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You're abstaining. Okay. 4-0-1. I move to approve the fall tax bill insert for the Taxation Aid Committee.
Mike?
Second. Yep.
Yes, Helen?
Helen, I.
Janet, I.
I.
Justina, aye.
Michael,
Ryan,
aye. And Ryan, aye. Okay, 5-0. Okay.
Mike? Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
I can hear you.
Mike?
Yes. It takes a second.
Yeah, guess what? I can't access a way to raise. I know. Let me finish, please. I can't access the way to raise hands. I can't access my participants list. And if I want to speak, I'm going to raise my hand physically. Can you see my image?
Yeah.
Can you see me? My
Yeah,
video?
I can see you. I can see
Helen, can you just I can't see you.
And
I have to keep track of the participants and the PowerPoint and the minutes. So if you can just let me send you a text message on how to get your raise hand button back, we can move along.
I can see you right now, Helen.
You
Let's
did
go on
that,
with it.
except that yeah.
Let's just
try what I told you to do again. It worked last time.
I've seen your hand up. So, but if let's move on. If I don't see you, raise your hand, okay? All right, I lost my place here.
Thank you.
Okay, Taxation Aid Committee.
We voted. Rights of Public Access Committee.
Oh, we already voted on this?
Yep.
Okay.
It's unanimous.
Okay, all right. So we have some appointments here.
Wait a minute.
Did someone say something?
Ellen.
Ellen did.
No. No.
What, Helen? Say what's no? Say what? Okay.
I have nothing to say. Can you hear?
Okay. It's just a delay, so it's hard, Helen. Okay, so we have how many, Ryan? How many seats are available on this committee?
There's 3 seats currently.
3 seats currently available.
Yep. Jim Falcone and John Reel are the two current members of the committee that we've already appointed. The committee is a committee of 5, so there's three seats available. One thing that we do have to keep an eye on is that the first year's, I forget if it was 2 for 2 years or 3 for 2 years, and then the other ones were for 1. I'll look that up real quick.
This is confirmed by the principal clerk that their proposed term endings are correct. She has their appointment dates, and this is correct.
Good.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do is we'll have each person. This is the first time I've experienced having 7 people apply on the same day for the same three spots. So I guess what we'll do is we'll have each one introduce themselves and talk about why they want to be on the committee. So is Mike Kubiak on?
I do not see him on.
Okay. So Barbara Bernessel, is she on?
Yes, she is.
Okay, Barbara.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Yeah, I'm on the Conservation Commission, and I think, first of all, I think this is a great committee to have, and I'm amazed that so many people want to be on, that I think this committee will keep rolling for a number of years. But as a member of the Conservation Commission, I think there are a number of issues regarding public access that intersect with Conservation Commission issues as well. And I think that I could bring that information to the committee, and I'd be happy to serve on it.
Okay. I think that there's definitely a lot of overlap with different committees on this, so I think that sounds like a good thing. Stephen Ducati, is he on?
Yep, one moment.
Unmute.
Wait.
Hi.
Here we go.
I actually, the Rights Public Access Committee, my friend Mike Kubiak actually encouraged me to apply for this. And I spoke with Helen today at length about the planning board, but we'll get to that later. I'm a lifelong Wellfleet person, but I've been here now for 5 years as a full-time resident. I've been to a lot of the shellfish meetings and activities, and the rights of the public access. It very interests me because of a lot of different things that are going on at Lieutenant Island, in the people not abiding by the rules in terms of parking, especially this summer, out at the sluice area. I just want to be a part of more a part of the town, in addition to my photos.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. And we all have your application. So we've hopefully everyone's read all these applications. Okay. Melissa Yao, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. Do you have me? Okay.
Yep, I see you.
Okay.
She got muted.
Oh, hold on one second, Melissa. You muted. I think, yeah, there you go.
No?
Yep, there you go. Go ahead.
I spoke to Nancy about the committee and Jim Falcone, and I watched the documentary from Irene Payne, and I just can see how many of our ways of access to landings and shellfishing sites abut private property or have been overtaken by private property. And I can understand the importance of keeping our public right to access it as a shellfisherman.
Thank you. And Sonia Woodman, she on?
She is not, but Nancy Chavetta, there you go, Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead, Nancy.
Sonia texted me and said that her internet, she's in New Hampshire right now, and her internet won't let her, she's not going to be able to connect. But she just expressed her interest, and I think you have a letter of support from me.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. Thomas Sigia.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thanks for the opportunity. I read all the write-ups from all the folks, and you got a tough decision ahead of you, the board.
Yeah.
Listen, the why me? I enjoy a lot of committees I'm on here in Wellfleet. I'm on the Shellfish Advisory Board, Historical Committee, CPC, and I volunteer at AIM and 246 Kitchen and Oyster Fest. I look at why me. I have dealt with the board. I believe that many of you remember the Payne Hollow situation. We got the town landing here. I've worked with the board on that, and I've enjoyed the residents and the visitors giving access to the town landing. And we presently have 12 kayaks on my property, and we have 12 kayaks on my neighbor's property. And it's a joy to have listen to the dialogue that we have with both our visitors and our residents. And I think I can add a lot to the committee in just being able to brief, what the experiences they've been having, getting access to the water. So, thanks for the few minutes that you've given me, Mr. Chair, but I think I'd be a valuable asset on this board.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Nick Barron.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Thank you all for joining me. My name is Nicholas Baer, and I'm 44 years old. I've grown up in Wellfleet my whole life. I've been fishing the ponds and areas around here for well over 30 years. I did a little bit of hunting when I was younger, which is not so easy now with the access issues, but I was just looking to add back to my town. I've been a lifelong resident, and this is something that interests me, being a fisherman, and like to see the ponds accessed and continued to be able to be used by people. So it was something that I was interested in and figured it was time to try to serve my town. Thank you very much.
Okay. So this is tough. I'm not sure exactly what to do, because on one hand, I feel like it's really valuable to have the overlap of other committees. And on the other hand, I think it's important that we give an opportunity to people who have not had a chance to serve on a committee, who are expressing interest, to get involved with the process. So I'm a little bit torn. I see Mike Kubiak's name on there, so he did get on just in time. So let's hear from Mike Kubiak, and then Janet's got her hand up. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi guys. I don't know Mr. Chair, I don't know what I missed, but
everyone's just explaining why they want to serve on the committee and what they can sort of bring to the committee.
Oh, okay. Well, I live in town, and I spend a lot of time in the uplands and the woodlands, so I don't know too much about the beach access problems that some of the other candidates do, but I know a lot about the woodland trails that have a lot of access points that are blocked and just grown in through vegetation over the years that needs retaking as well. So I don't think it should be limited to just the beach access and shellfish access, but all encompassing all throughout town.
Yeah, I think it's a rights of public access committee, so it would all those things would be a component of this, not just coastal.
Right. All right. Well, I have experience landscaping, and I have tools and equipment that I'd be willing to donate for use of the town to help in the maintenance and excavation of some of these sites. So I see there's there's a lot of interest in it. So I also have interest in the finance committee. So as an alternate, I think there's 2 openings. So I never really expected this much interest in this committee.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good to see, and I'm happy to have people interested in getting involved. And if you don't wind up on this committee, or anyone who doesn't wind up on this committee, please look for other areas that you are interested in, because it's important, especially people who have have not been involved to sort of have that opportunity to be part of our town government, because these committees are very important, and what comes through committees usually wind up becoming part of public policy, depending on the committee. And so I appreciate all this interest, and I hope that if you're not selected, that you please look into something else that does have openings. We have a lot of open spots on committees, and it's great to see new people want to get involved. Janet?
So I was going to say about the same thing, that there's a lot of wonderful people with interest in this committee, and it would be great to get people who have not been on committees before. But I would also like to hear what Ryan says, because maybe he has some insight into the experience of people that could be on this committee. So I'd like to hear from Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Okay. I mean, I definitely have my preferences, who to pick. It's not it's not up to me, it's up to the board.
Right.
We have 7 people for 3 positions. I mean, that's unusual. I think, I don't know. So one thing is with Barbara Brennisol, it might work best if she's a liaison with the committee, rather than being on the committee itself, if she's willing to do that. I had talked to her, and I know that she was a little bit concerned with the time commitment, in addition to all the other committees that she's on. So that, I don't know, that's one way of getting her input without and having a liaison with the Conservation Commission. But in terms of the individuals, I would pick. I really want to give a lot of the first time applicants. We need to get them involved in the town affairs. It's how we'll maintain some vitality within the town. I wish she was here, but I would like Sonia Woodman, Melissa Yao, and Nicholas Barron. I think they bring a diverse skill set. Sonia Woodman is also a forager, so she's familiar with the trail issues. Nick Barron is also familiar with many of the trail issues as well. So I think it is important to keep a wide view and not just focused on town landings and access to the water, even though that is a critical element of this committee. Thank you.
Ryan, can I just add something, or Michael?
Sure.
That even if you're not on this committee, all committees, you can always go to their meetings, even if we're on Zoom, and input and help is always needed. We just have to limit the number of people that are on committees.
So I'm not seeing any other hands.
Helen's waving her hands.
Oh, Helen's waving her hands. Helen, please.
She can't. Just I'll watch for it, Mike.
No, that's fine. Yeah, Helen, go ahead.
Yeah, I tried to access this meeting on my other computer and it didn't work. Okay, so yes, it's good to bring new people in. I do that pretty actively. But this committee is walking into a situation with points of public access blowing up in at least 3 parts of town in a big way for a variety of reasons. And in all 3 cases, the access is over private roads to reach a public place. And what we don't want is an us and them situation. And I worked with Barbara Brennisol for either 7 or 8 years on the Shellfish Committee. She's written an incredible textbook on shellfishing. She's a scientist, and she's on the Conservation Commission. And I think that it would be ideal, if she's willing to do the work, to have her be a voting, participating member of that committee. I also worked for, I don't know, Tom Sagia, did we work together for 4 years or 3 years on the Shellfish Committee? And you were very stable, very good. And I would recommend you, even though, yeah, it's good to have younger people. There's going to be a lot of homework for this committee, like a lot. You're going to have to get up to speed, find the archive, find what's already been determined, look at previous opinions from town council, because there were a lot of them. And at least you have Mr. Falcone on it, who was on the previous pond, you know, the previous committee that was dealing with the same sort of issues, pretty much. The charge was a bit different. The title was a bit different. I think it would be good to have one person from the shellfishing community on it. Although, again, Barbara Brennesol is so aware of shellfishing issues that it's unbelievable, mainly because of, you know, being on CONSCOM. And a lot of the issues that this committee is going to be dealing with overlap with Conservation Commission. So having somebody right there who's aware of what they are is important, because they're not going to have staff support. They can ask to invite staff to join them. But it would be really good to have her, if nobody else, on it. And I think Melissa Yao, who both Melissa and Sonia got very, very high recommendations. And I'm torn between Tom and Nicholas Barron. I'm sure about two people who I think would be good on it. And I want to hear more from the other board members about what they think about Tom and Nicholas.
Hey, Justina?
I'm open. I just want to hear about it.
Yeah, I was glad to hear from Ryan. I was glad that he had the idea for this committee. And independently, I had come up with the same names of Sonia, Melissa, and Nick. I appreciate Nick's desire to serve and his common practical knowledge as a hunter and fisherman, particularly of the ponds. And I liked Ryan's idea of Barbara as a liaison. I believe in book knowledge, and there's an Ivy League graduate among those names, and I'm a believer in practical knowledge. Probably equally, if I had to choose, practical knowledge. So I would like this committee to have the confidence of our residents who've grown up here and lived here and been outside. And I endorse all of Brian's picks.
I am torn a little bit, but the first, I think that I'm weighing on the side of Justina and Ryan on this. I think it's important that there's institutional knowledge there with Jim. And who else is on the board, Ryan?
John Reel.
So you have overlap already with the Natural Resources Advisory Board. So I feel confident adding Melissa, Sonia, and Nick to this, because I think there'll be some learning curve. But, you know, when you get on a committee, you don't know. Not everybody's going to know everything. And I think it's important that we give some people a chance to get involved when they take this initiative. So I'm going to go with Ryan selected also. So if Ryan, would you like to make a motion for all three?
Does Janet have anything?
No, I think I've already spoken, and I do not know Melissa and Sonia, but I know Nicholas, and it sounds good. I think, yeah, I agree. I agree with what everybody said, so I would support that.
Okay, so.
You want me to make the motion?
I can make it. I move to appoint Sonia Woodman to the Rights of Public Access Committee for the term ending on June 30th, 2021. Did I make all the motions at once?
Yes.
Are they all to the same term?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I move to appoint Melissa Yao to the Rights of Public Access Committee for the term ending in June 30th, 2021. I move to appoint Nicholas Baer to the Rights of Public Access Committee.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Aren't we voting for these one at a time?
You could, I think, Ryan, you can make the motion as I move to appoint Melissa, Sonia, and Nicholas for a term ending, or you can do 3 individual ones. And it sounded like you were still doing 3 individual ones by saying I move to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Helen, hold on. I'll explain to you what's happening. So 3 board members supported the same 3 candidates. So I asked that a motion for those 3 candidates be made to put onto the board. I mean, to be put onto the committee. We can't go through every single one.
Yes, except, Mike, hold on. That means that I can't vote properly unless I vote for all 3. And I would rather not.
All right, I'll make them all.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine, Helen.
I move to appoint Sonia Woodman to the Rights of Public Access Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Janet.
Helen, nay.
Michael, aye.
Christina, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Okay, carries 4-1.
I move to appoint Melissa Yao to the Rights of Public Access Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Helen, yes.
Janet, yes.
Wait, Helen, yes.
Janet, aye.
Christina, aye.
Michael, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Sorry. I move to appoint Nicholas Baer to the Rights of Public Access Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2021.
Janet, seconds.
All in favor?
Christina, aye.
Janet, aye.
Helen, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Michael, aye. Okay, so
I understand.
Helen,
Mike,
you have to raise your hand. Thank you. Go ahead, Helen.
yes, thank you. I did raise one. Thank you. So the way this was set up, I would have, moved to appoint Barbara Bredesel and voted for her. And there was something about the way this just happened that seemed efficient on one hand, and also, I don't know, it was like a prearranged vote. Suddenly I was looking at a voting block, and it makes me uncomfortable. That's all I want to say about it. You've just appointed 3 people. I have no prejudice against Sonia Woodman. I made the choice because my 3rd choice would have been Barbara Bredesel, which is the only reason I voted against Sonia. But in any case, she's on there now with John Reel and Mike Falcone, and I wish them all luck. I have something additional to say, though, about this committee, which is it's good. Let's hope they do well. But anybody that has a conflict of interest before they act within the committee, before they vote, participate, should submit a disclosure. For example, anybody that fishes, shellfishes, if they're going to be functioning in this committee, can submit a disclosure of appearance of conflict. It's not a problem. It's, should happen all the time, and we can approve that. The second thing is, I've got a list of material that will be useful, including things having to do with subdivisions, so they don't have to run up against that again and again. And a wonderful document that, I gave out for the last committee, which is Ways to the Sea, or it's called something like that, Ways to the Water, that has a lot of state law in it and, how to and things to access. And I also have the contact information for different neighborhood groups or subdivision associations who are in the front lines of these situations and can, they already have a lot of knowledge, a lot of who owns what is controversial. Not much is, actually, at this point, in terms of who can have access and who can't. But it needs to be looked at again because it's being such a problem for everybody concerned, the people who want to get to the water and also the people who live right next to it. So I have that material and will share it as best I can, and just want to be sure that, for example, Melissa and Sonia, go over doing a disclosure with us. And Nancy Chavetta knows all about that. She's made some perfect disclosures to the select board, and it's not a problem. They're not going to be dealing with money that affects them. It's just appearance of conflict. Thank you.
Okay. And I just want to thank everyone who applied, and no hard feelings. This was a tough decision to make. I appreciate everyone's interest in this, and I don't know if it has any alternates or anything like that, or maybe there will be in the future. But I appreciate everyone who applied, and please look into other avenues if you're not already over booked. I know Barbara does a lot of work, and thank you, Barbara, for putting your name forward for this. And I got Ryan and Justina's hands up, but I'd like to move on. So let's make
just
it brief.
A question.
Yep.
So some of these applicants do have other boards or committees that they're interested on, including some of the ones that we did not appoint to the Rights of Public Access Committee.
If they're interested in those other ones, then they need to let our office know so we can put them on a different agenda.
Okay, because on their applications, they list the other ones.
I understand that, but if they're still actually interested in that, sometimes people put backups but don't really want those. So if they're still very interested, just reach out to our office and confirm, and we will put you on a future agenda.
Okay, thank you. That's
okay. Thank you. Justina, do you have something?
Yeah, just briefly, Helen, I'm sorry you felt uncomfortable, but it was open deliberation. We didn't all go in a back room and smoke cigars and come back with some, illicit thing. So sorry it didn't go your way, but please don't,
accuse us of
there and
back room.
Love Warren on the select board.
Well, also, Helen, you mentioned the people that you wanted on the board first. So everybody mentioned it. 3 people agreed. So it seemed at that point, you have already a majority of the board who's willing to support the same 3 people. So it would only make sense to put those people into a motion. Once you get there, then you're there. Anyways. Moving on. Planning board, we have Olga Khan. Is Olga here?
She is. Olga, you'll have to accept the unmute.
Unmute, okay.
There you go.
Hello.
You're all set, Olga.
Excuse me?
You're all set if you'd like to just discuss why you want to become a full member of the planning board.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I'm on an alternate. I think I only met one time before COVID hit, and to the best of my knowledge, there have been no other meetings. But my experience still stands, 30 years in architectural work. So I had an architectural license, which I'm now retired, so I gave up a construction supervisor's license. I'm well-versed in the building code. And I served on the Wellfleet Housing Authority, the Planning Board, the Historical Commission, and what was the Historic Review Board before it was rolled into the Historic Commission. I would like to continue my work on it, on the committee, and not be an alternate. I would encourage others to step up and take the alternate slots, because I think there were two, and I was the only one who asked to be on it.
Okay, I think there's a seat available, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I move to appoint Olga Khan, currently an alternate, as a regular member of the planning board with a term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Helen, second.
Janet, I.
Helen, I.
Christina, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, I. Okay, thank you, Olga.
Thank you. You know,
You're muted, Olga.
unmute. I just want to put a plug in for ranked choice voting, which
This is
have helped the last,
not the time. Not the time, Olga.
oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. It might have helped with the last vote. you took.
Okay. Thank you, though. Okay. So next up, we have discussion of planning board meeting schedule. I think Jerry's here. Ryan, you brought this forward.
Yes. So I'm concerned because the planning board hasn't met since Governor Baker's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. From their minutes that they just included here, they're still missing the December 4th minutes for the meeting on December 4th. So that's, you know.
We only sent you the minutes of 2020, Ryan. That's why we didn't know you wanted prior year meeting minutes. We can easily get those for you.
Committees are supposed to post their minutes within a reasonable time frame. I think that, 10 months is a little long. But I'm also concerned if they have received any plans that need action. They also, and then I would like to hear what they have to say with the Route 6 Main Street and rail trail project extensions. We just received those plans last month for the 25% design.
Jerry, would you like to speak?
Yeah, Jerry, you need to accept the unmute.
Helen has her hand up.
I'm trying to unmute Jerry. There you go.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
To address Selectman Curley's question on why we haven't met.
Sure.
Number one, we haven't had anything necessary or submitted to the board since COVID started to qualify or necessitate a meeting, number one. Number two, the only approval not required plan that's been submitted is an 18-acre parcel that the Sequester Country Club sectioned off, which went to Cape Cod Commission, eventually got back to the planning board, which I signed as chair. The subdivisions, two subdivisions that we're presently dealing with, neither subdivision has asked for any covenant releases. No new business as far as approval required, other approval required plans or subdivisions have come before the board. So therefore, I didn't seem necessary to, in fact, have a meeting. The planning board or the town secretary who handles planning board work has submitted, to the best of my knowledge, all minutes that have been approved for the meetings. And there was never a 10-month lag that I know of on any one of our meetings. She's very prompt about that.
He's saying that they're not on the website, Jerry, and I'm reaching out to Rebecca to understand why, but we won't hear an answer tonight.
Correct, but I also know that she has been out sick and has had her covert problems and other problems. So we're all dealing with COVID and people's health. So I think that answers your question, why we haven't met. If I didn't answer the question, Mr. Chairman, I will certainly be glad to.
No, I think you answered the question. I'm just curious if the planning board's planning on commenting on any of the Route 6 corridor curb cuts and 25% design stuff coming up. Do you guys have any meetings planned or are still looking into year-round accessory dwellings? I know that had come up prior to COVID. So those are a couple issues and that I was wondering if the planning board is going to be taken up since I've got you here. And also the sidewalks that are planned by DOT to come down Main Street for like 400 feet. I'm wondering if the planning board is considering, any ways to connect those to our existing sidewalks at all. I know that's sort of in your purview, but not necessarily a requirement that you address those things. But I don't know if you got any plans.
Yes, I have, as chair, I have plans, Mr. Chairman. One of the things the planning board has looked at, I think Helen, with all due respect to you, the other members sitting on the board, I think Helen is the only one that's sitting on the board that was involved with the initial, was on the board initially when the planning board with the town planner was able to get the Cape Cod Commission involved with the Route 6 work after the death on Route 6. So the planning board was in fact instrumental, along with the planning board, along with the town planner to move that forward. It has taken a long time. The state works slowly. The planning board has in fact voted really at this point not to get too involved with either one of those projects, DCR or DOT. Basically, as individual members, we have all supported those members individually to say, okay, if you want to venture out, get involved with discussions, feel free to do so. The planning board hasn't taken an initial position. However, I have been at all the meetings. I have given input on DOT at the last meeting, along with a plug when they redo Route 6 from Eastham lot line to Truro. to seriously look at right-hand turn only lanes instead of double barreling a number of our traffic lights and causing chaos at each one of those 3 lights. They said they would. So the planning board has been somewhat involved. The problem, Mr. Chairman, and the board that we as a planning board are facing is we don't see at this point, now that we've put to bed the Rotary, you put to bed Rotary, Town of Wellfleet put it to bed. They heard us loud and clear. So it will be continue to be through lanes with traffic lights. We don't see any other real input. They have a job to do, and when the planning board sees they're going to do it. As far as the bike trail, we do not see any immediate solution to their plan, since almost everything that's been submitted by the bike committee and other people within the town is passing through the National Seashore. And those of us that have dealt with the National Seashore know how long a task and how difficult a task it is to deal with that bureaucracy. So basically, the planning board has stepped back. The planning board is not happy, quite frankly, with that 400 feet coming off Route 6, ending somewhere just about the Wicked Oyster, because what they're basically doing is dumping that problem into the town of Wellfleet's lap. We now have to figure out, is the town of Wellfleet, or will they make the commitment to expand the sidewalks, revamp people's property, and continue that up to the bookstore, Commercial Street entrance, where we have a sidewalk on the right-hand side. So that is an ongoing problem in the future the planning board will be looking at. If what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Chairman, that the select board wants us to be involved, it is an issue that the town of Wellfleet has got to seriously look at with the bikers coming off Route 6, having the ability to cross Route 6 with a traffic light, come up 400 feet, and then left on a very narrow road all the way into Wellfleet Center and down towards the pier. So we as a town have some serious problems in that regard. We're looking at it, but at the present time, that project is probably 2.5. Maybe you guys have got a better figure on based on what's going to happen, but I'm seeing 2.5 years plus based on COVID and everything else going on that before they start to work on that. So we have some time seriously to look to see what the town of Wellfleet is going to do. We're not going to change from what we can see the fact that DOT is going to bring that up 400 feet and then stop. Does that kind of answer your questions, Mr. Chairman?
It does. I guess I think that, the planning board as a whole at this 25% design could have some input as a board itself for the DOT. And really, I think that you guys are the ones who have the sort of knowledge and experience and charge to actually make those comments as a board. The select board can look at it, but we're not a planning board. And I think, we have our own opinions on the select board, but I do think it's important that the planning board sort of, if they don't want to if you guys decide not to make your voices heard, that's your prerogative on the board and you're the chair and I respect that. But I do think that, there's some room for your input to maybe improve the project. So that's the only thing I'll say about that. So Yeah, that's all.
Well, Mr. Chairman, do you think the select board has been the leading board as far as input? It's actually the sole board, from what knowledge I have, as to what DOT will listen to. Everybody else is an individual. So is the planning board. The main thrust comes from you as a board of selectmen. Does the Board of Selectmen feel at this point in time that really, with all the discussion we've had with the planning that they have done based on that last meeting, that they're really in any position to do anything else but what they've decided on?
It was my understanding that my understanding is that the sidewalk up Main Street is on the table, but not decided. They're at 25% design right now. So I guess I just feel that the planning board may have some input on, whether that makes sense. If it makes sense, I don't really know. If there's a way to continue that sidewalk so that people who are crossing can meet that existing sidewalk, up by Heritage Books. So I don't know. I don't have the answers. I just am throwing it out to you. That's all.
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, that we have, it's a catch-22. If you have a traffic light, if you've got the bike trail going on Route 6 and you have a traffic light with a push button that's going to stop all traffic, where those bikers on Route 6 are going to come out of the old railroad bed access onto that parking area, up Route 6, across 3 major commercial properties, cross Cahoon Hollow Road, hit the traffic light, come across the street. In essence, it is good. It would seem a good idea to have a sidewalk at least 400 feet to get them away from Route 6, where cars turning left onto Main Street coming into town at least aren't fighting for that first 400 with those on bikes or walking or whomever is using that 400 feet. The major problem, and I think the planning board, and I can't speak for the entire board, of course, just as chair, would be the connection. Is it good planning to connect? I think probably the board will certainly discuss it. And I think they will come back to the, I would be greatly surprised if they didn't. I think they'll come back to the Board of Selectmen and say, yes, we should connect. But the problem is the town of Wellfleet ready to pay for that connection?
Yep.
Because if, from best of my knowledge, it falls on us, Mr. Chairman. The state has said, thank you very much. We wash our hands at 400. We're done.
Yep. That's the impression I got.
Okay. So gladly I can get it on the agenda when we do meet with, and we have time to get their input and see what I can do to get a letter to you and maybe to them. But I think it's more important, quite honestly, to get a letter to the Board of Selectmen to say, okay, here's what we think makes sense. Now it's going to be up to you as a board to see how you can, in fact, come up with the project money to get that sidewalk the additional way to Heritage Books. And then at least we have a sidewalk all the way into the center of town.
Okay.
So I would gladly do that.
All right. Does any other board member have anything on this?
Helen has her hand up.
Yes, hello.
Helen? I can't see you, Helen, so go ahead, Helen. Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mike. Jerry, it's always good to hear from you, but that's not what I think we need. We need to hear from the planning board. So I am glad that you said everything you said, but it's just you. That's the first thing. The second thing has to do with what we got in our packets. has the planning board not met since March 4th?
That is correct.
I'm looking at what, so why am I looking at, I'm looking at a set of minutes that are draft. And you're supposed to be, this is March 4th, this is many months later. You could have at least please gotten a quorum together and approved them, because although people can access drafts legally, the boards and committees were all supposed to do it sort of in a timely fashion. That's what it says in the open meeting law. And this is the first I've seen of these, although I was at one of your meetings, the one with the, you know which one it was. It went on and on. The second thing is, do you remember the date, given that you said that you signed that approval not required plan? Do you remember the date when you were appointed by a vote as chair, or any person on the board to sign such things? Because there's a very, rigorous process for that. It's section 81P. And I remember it from when I was on the planning board. So do you have any memory of when you were officially appointed to do that? Because otherwise your signature is not valid. In other words, in order to have one person sign an ANR, the board has to have met, the board has to have voted to appoint that person to do it. And then it has to be registered at the Register of Deeds and the Recorder of the Land Court, signed by a majority of the board, giving the name of the person so authorized. Do you remember when that happened and if it happened?
That registration is...
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but...
No, it's okay. That registration has been on file for, and has been updated for the last 15 years, when every time we change officers, new sets of officers have been sent to Land Court and to the Registry of Deeds, authorizing the chair or the vice chair to sign approval not required plans. Because we have a 21-day...
Excellent. I'm so happy to hear that.
Do you really think I'd overlook that, Helen, after 25 years? No offense intended.
Hey. No,
Sorry,
I was
Helen.
just...
I'm not taking shots.
I'm bringing it up because
That's okay.
I'm very into...
I know.
Yeah, no.
No,
Look, it's
on record.
good. The question
only thing we have to change, Helen...
Had it been refreshed, and you answered it.
The only thing we have to change on that, Helen, Mr. Chair, through you.
Okay, good.
Helen,
Thank you.
Is
excellent.
We've got to change the vice chair. Andy Freeman has moved over to the Board of Appeals, which I think is a great position for him, and I think he will be a tremendous asset to the Board of Appeals. But he was the vice chair, so when we do finally meet, we will have to appoint a new vice chair, at which point we will then notify the registry as to who the chair and the vice chair are.
Okay. I have Bonnie Shepherd right here.
No, that isn't what I was saying. Hold on, Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't what I asked, Jerry.
No, he was pointing out
what I asked was when something else. I asked if whoever you delegated by a vote of the planning board had been registered as such. Simply being the chair doesn't do that.
Yes, it does.
And you said yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that's on record.
Yes, it is.
No, it doesn't. I'm looking. Okay, never mind. I'll check myself. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Okay. Bonnie Shepherd?
Yeah, I'm just going to say something very brief, which is that I'm in favor of the planning board starting to meet again and to discuss the sidewalk as the select board suggests. And that's all I want to say. I also think, well, actually, no, there's a second thing I want to say, which is that we had started discussions about accessory dwellings and with the housing committee that I think should continue. And we had started discussions on long-range planning related to sea level rise and climate change. And so I think that there is work for the planning board to do.
I tend to agree with you, Bonnie, and just that I don't know that the planning board would have not met this long had there not been this switch over to from COVID non-live meetings. So my concern is that there is issues that the planning board would be discussing and would be taking on had we not been in a COVID situation. And I guess I think town just has to keep on keeping on. And as difficult as it is, doing these Zoom meetings, something's just sort of have to flush themselves out. So I do think there is stuff that's in that is being put off that could maybe be addressed now. So that's all I'll say about it. So I'm in favor of, I agree with Bonnie. Anything else? Okay, moving on then. Thank you, Jerry, for coming. And
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Okay. Next we have use of town property. So we got Sarah Blanford, Sam Giamatti. Sarah, are you on here?
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Sarah Blanford. I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the members of the Select Board. I am not actually joined by Sam Giamatti this evening. I am joined by a fellow organizer, my friend and neighbor and incoming junior at Nauset High School, Janae Tompkins. And we represent a 5-member organizing group, and the 2 of us are representing this evening. The other members are Sam Giamatti, Lily Klurman, Gabrielle Ment, myself, and Janae. So we, the organizers, are interested in providing another opportunity for our committee, for our community, to create an event, a march. We are hoping to do another march. And just to engage the energy that we feel that is alive in our community, just for a more equitable and inclusive town, community, Cape Cod. Our plan is to hold the event on the 20th of September. That's a Sunday at 10 a.m. We're hoping to follow the same route as the last march that started at the pier and ended at the Congregational Church backfield. We have been in touch with Chief Hurley. I see him here this evening, and we'll continue to stay in contact with him. And we have made a request to the Congregational Church, to Richard Robichaud, who has submitted our request on to the 12-person church committee. 5 of whom responded positively, 7 of whom have not yet responded, so we're waiting on that. Our materials to promote this event will state very clearly masks required, social distancing required. We plan to end at the field behind the Congregational Church, again, like last time. And our plan is to have a few speakers, perhaps a musician, and the focus will be Black Lives Matter, voter registration in the upcoming presidential election, and support for the Massachusetts Police Reform Bill. Thank you.
So maybe I'm not seeing it here.
We did not receive an application, Mr. DeVasto. That is why you do not have one in your packet.
Application. Okay. So
Chief Hurley is on and can explain how this came to be. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, that's fine. Chief Hurley, why don't you speak first? I see your hand, Helen. You can talk after. Go ahead, Chief.
Good evening. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Back a few weeks ago, Sam contacted me and was looking to do an event this past Monday, Labor Day. And through some back and forth and a few emails and the request for maybe some tents and some other things that have gone beyond what we've done in the past, it was just a recommendation for the use of town property that came about last Thursday, and just wanted to get them on the agenda because the event would happen before your next meeting on the 22nd. So, as far as traffic and past events that we've had, we had one in May, we had one in July. The groups have been very easy to work with. I've been able to talk with the organizers, get everything preset ahead of time. We systematically close roads down throughout town to limit disruption. So at least on that end, that would be my input for tonight. It sounds like now, like as in July, they will be ending on private property, the Congo Church. So that would take out of the equation any use of town property for either tents or other events that they're planning.
Okay, so I'm not sure where to move without an application. We have the motion here. Courtney, is that?
Yeah. So it sounds like what Chief Hurley just said was that they're not actually using town property. So
Okay.
if they're stopping at the church, we don't need an actual motion here, but we were not aware of that plan because we didn't receive anything in writing from our office. So that is fine if that's their plan and there's no use of town property. But this is the process that needs to be followed in the future, just so we can be sure.
Yeah, okay, I agree. If you're on a public right of way, you have a constitutional right to assemble and protest. I see you, Helen. I see your hand up. I'm speaking. I will call on you.
Thank you.
And that use of a roadway is for the purpose of peaceful protest and assembly is not something that we can actually deny, in my opinion. We could permit it, but use of town property as far as tents or anything like that, or congregating in that way with a formal type of booth thing, that would be something that we would have to, in my opinion, approve. So Helen's got her hand up. I know she's going to disagree with me. So go ahead, Helen.
Yes, thank you so much for applying to hold this event. In fact, and this is something I've been part of numerous times on the select board, I want to pin down so that we can give you permission to use town property, which you will be doing. You're going to convene at the marina, right? And then you're going to go along which roads. And I would like to do the motion so that you have permission to use those roads, because you're not simply going to be using them like walking on a sidewalk or crossing the street. They're going to be closed to traffic, and you're going to get help from the police department, who is supportive and wonderful. And we want you to be totally legal and able to do this. So yes, Mike, one can use public ways, but one can't take them over to the exclusion of other uses, all of which happens here with the Martin Luther King event every January, and they come and apply to us for this, and other events that I've been around for. So may I ask, through you, Mike, to Chief Hurley, which roads are going to be used to get from the marina to the Congregational Church property?
If it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, the last event, which I believed worked
Chief
well.
Hurley?
Yep, I'm answering.
She's on a delay. So.
Go ahead, Chief.
Sorry about that. So in July, the best.
No, wait, which?
Helen, you have a delay. You have to wait 4 seconds and you'll get your answer. Go ahead, Chief.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The route we used in July was from the town pier down Commercial Street to East Commercial, up Witts Lane, and then a right onto Main Street and into the Congregational Church.
Okay, through you to Sarah Blandford. Is this sound good to you to go that route?
Sarah,
yes.
Are you there?
Okay. So if we made a motion for this, we'd include the use of Commercial Street, East Commercial Street, Witts Lane, and
The Marina.
East Main Street. Yeah, and start at the Marina. I'm just getting the roads down so that it'll be all, completely legal, protected, good. Does that sound right to you as organizers?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And one more question. What does your group call itself? Should we still be approving the use of town property by Sam Giamatti and Sarah Blandford, or should we be, does your group have a name?
We do not have a name as an entity, no.
Okay, so if I just use those two names, that's okay. Does that sound okay to Chief Hurley?
That would be up to the board, Helen. I'm just, I'm here for purely public safety. That's my role here.
That works for us, Helen.
Okay, I think so too.
Okay.
Okay, so Mike, I think we do need a motion. It won't hurt, even if we're going with your opinion about it, it won't hurt to have a motion and to make it safe and legal for the people doing this event.
Okay.
Given that they've already set conditions for themselves about masking and distancing.
Sure, Helen. You can make a motion. There's 2 board members that still have their hands up. Can we hear from them first, or do you want to make the motion and then discuss? Okay.
It's up to them. I don't care.
Justina, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Sarah. Did I hear you correctly? You're still waiting for approval from the church?
Yes.
And do you have a backup plan? And forgive me for not knowing with your past marches, did you already use church property before?
We did for the July 4th march.
Yeah.
I did speak with Richard Robichaud tonight, and his hands are tied until he hears from all 12 of his members.
Yeah.
However, he is of the strong opinion that this shouldn't be a problem. They have been supportive in the past, and he sees it going through, but he's unable to speak for anyone, of course.
Okay, so it's just a matter of what you said. And it went smoothly last time. And this is going to be a peaceful situation. Well, good for you, young people.
Ryan? Oh, sorry.
Being out there and drawing attention to this important cause. It's an important time in our nation's history.
Ryan?
Yes, so I'm glad that we have a request for the use of town property. I hope that you follow this process in the future. I know that on some of the past gatherings, I would have liked to have attended, but I felt that I couldn't because you did not have permission to use town property, and with me being on the select board, I thought it would probably be inappropriate for me to attend, just on that basis, which is unfortunate. So I am strongly in favor of having a motion to approve the use of the town property. And so that, you know, when this happens, I can actually attend without misgivings. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem. Well, I do actually, I have a little bit of a problem, but, you know, it's going to be up to the board. But I do feel like the right to peacefully assemble is a constitutional right, and a public right-of-way is just that, a public right-of-way. And I worry a little bit about both the town by approving this and by the two applicants having their names on the use, that it opens up some liability in both regards during this time. And, you know, the control of potentially people who are you know, not necessarily part of the group or anti-protesters. I feel personally that it's you know, I appreciate people coming to the board for approval. I don't think that personally that they need our approval to do this. Maybe at the marina, because that's slightly different than, I get, it's still kind of a public right of way. So I am going to abstain from voting on this because I don't believe it needs approval for the use of town property. I mean, if you look up the right to protest, the right to free speech, and the right to protest, it's pretty clear that it's a constitutional right, and we can't really deny it. And so therefore I'd prefer not to even move on it. But if it's not up to me. So I'll let the board decide what they want to do. And I will abstain, but this is in no way a statement of not in support of what people are doing. I'm not making a statement in any way other than to say that I believe it's a constitutional right and we can't really deny it. So, that's my 2 cents. Justina probably has some sense.
Always. I support Chair DeBasto's statement. I think that our nation is founded on constitutional rights, certainly the constitutional right to assemble and protest, and certainly feel protective about any kind of liability of these brave young people who are before us. And I will also abstain, and I also feel a motion is unnecessary.
I'd just like to read right here the First Amendment, just for the record. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress. And it goes on. But so Helen, if you want to make a motion, that's fine. I'm a little apprehensive about the liability issue.
Yeah. I think the liability is entirely on us if we don't protect these people using town property. This has nothing to do with the right to assemble or any of the things you just read in the Constitution. This is like when we have a bike-a-thon and they're going to use Long Pond Road. This is like when we have the Martin Luther King event every year and they want to use Main Street to march from Town Hall to the library. It's the use of the street and the taking it over that they need protection and permission for. It's just use of town property. It's not telling people they can't assemble peacefully.
And what if we deny?
In fact, we're supporting that. So I do have a motion. Well, then they couldn't use it legally. They would have to find a private venue.
Yeah, but
so shall I read the motion?
No, because I have something to say towards that. What if we deny somebody the use of town property who also want to to demonstrate it. We're not the higher authority to assemble to peacefully express political opinions. Under your argument, Helen, the select board can deny people the use of town property to assemble, and that's not constitutional.
Hello, we've been doing that ever since COVID hit. With weddings and other things. That's assembly.
That is not right.
Excuse me, let me finish, please. This has nothing to do with political content. This has to do with numbers on property. That's the reason I feel that it's important to legitimize people doing something which you both seem to think is a good idea. And I do too. But that's not why we need to act on it. We are the board, we are the group that approves use of town property. They want to use it. They want to use it in an unusual way. We want to support it as we would be open to other people. And we particularly need to sanctify this, legitimize it, because we're in time of COVID and we need to condition it. People have to wear masks, people have to be kept far apart, and that's part of our protocol with this, which we've taken on in a whole other set of votes. So shall I read the motion?
No, we're not. I'm not
Mike?
discussing, not yet. Ryan has his hand up, and I have something to say too. That this board just denied a wedding of 25 people on a beach. And so if you're saying that there's no political justification for this, I have a hard time believing that. First of all, when we've just said no, 25 people can't have a small private wedding on a beach that we may or may not own. So this is not the same as a bike-a-thon or a Martin Luther King march, which is similar to it. The right to protest, to assemble in protest, is a different thing than a wedding or any of those such actions. So I do not believe that we can deny this, first of all. And should we deny it? And should we actually put it on here and accept it? I think we set a precedent. We also canceled the 4th of July parade for similar reasons. We didn't condition the 4th of July parade. The potential for the town to be held liable for approving something is much different than taking no action on it. If we approve something that goes wrong, then we've actually conditioned it, approved it, and basically given ourselves the liability. When you make an action, it's much different than taking no action. If we say, this is like a sanctioned event by the town, that's entirely different than people choosing to protest on a public right-of-way. So I don't agree with what you're saying. And I don't think that we can, as a board, actually take a stand that we can't allow 25 people to get married on a beach, but allow an unknown amount of protesters on a street and sanction that as a town-sanctioned event. So I just don't see how that happens. I don't see how, as a board, we can do that. Maybe somebody else can explain it to me. Ryan's got his hand up.
Mike?
Hold on, Ryan. Ryan.
Well, for me, if we're going to relitigate past actions, the reason I did not vote for the approval of the use of town property for the wedding is that we didn't know where it was happening. It wasn't even clear if it was on town property. Lieutenant Island has a lot of areas that aren't town property. And the applicants did not come to the meeting, so we couldn't clarify that. If they had, I would have voted for them having the the use of town property, but because we couldn't clarify it, I did not vote for it. I'd also, so the right of assembly is actually, there are a lot of provisional aspects of it. Yes, you can assemble, yes. But there's, I can send you, I'll send basically a quick legal opinion from the Library of Congress regarding the right to assembly. And in the United, to read a quick sentence, in the United States, the organizer of a public assembly must typically appear for and obtain a permit in advance from the local police department or other government body. Applications for permits usually require at a minimum information about specific date, time, and location of proposed assembly, and may require a great deal more information. Localities can, within the boundaries established by the Supreme Court decisions interpreting the First Amendment right to assemble peacefully, impose additional requirements for permit applications, such as information about the organizer of the assembly and specific details about how the assembly is to be conducted. They're basically it needs to be organized, so it's not, yeah, I don't know. That's it for me. So.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah. I move to approve the use of town property to peacefully assemble and march from the marina along Commercial Street, East Commercial Street, Witts Lane, and East Main Street to the Congregational Church property, contingent upon the completion of an application and subject to the conditions, if any, as listed on that application form for a fee of $110. And there's a $50 application fee and for processing. I would like to waive the fee of $110, but we are going to use police details and there is some cost involved. So perhaps somebody will step up and contribute that. I think this event deserves legal support. Thank you. Is there a second?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. All in favor?
Helen, aye.
Janet, nay.
Tina, nay.
Michael abstains.
Ryan, yes.
So I'm going to take my vote back and abstain.
So it doesn't pass.
Okay, Janet abstained, Michael abstained. The motion carries 2-1.
Wait.
Thank you.
Right?
Who, I know, Helen, I didn't hear all the.
Ryan, can you send us a printout of what you said?
I just emailed it to you.
Okay, so the motion carries 2-1 and 2 abstain.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So just to be clear, so that I do what is requested, I need to fill out an application, which I'm assuming can be found on the website.
Yep, I'll send you an email this evening, Sarah, and get you all the information you need to complete this with our office.
Okay, and there will be a $50 application processing fee?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Bye. Okay, on to the next thing. Okay, we have business. We're on to business. We have additions of recreational shellfish permit changes. I think we can go through these pretty quickly. Does anybody want an explanation, or have you read through the packet there?
I'm fine with it all. I don't know if Nancy Chavetta wants to add anything.
Nancy, would you like to add
Not unless you need me to.
I think it's very clear.
Yeah, very, very quick question. How many non-resident town employees are we potentially talking about?
I do not know.
Okay, I don't think it can be that many.
I think there's maybe at most a dozen, but it doesn't even seem that high going through my mind.
That's it.
Okay, so we're just gonna.
I'm just copying Suzanne. It's a wonderful benefit for people who work hard here.
Well, I'll start with A here, and I move to amend Section 5.2.1, eligibility for non-commercial permits, and Section 5.2.2, non-commercial permit fee schedule of the Wellfleet Shellfishing Policy and Regulations as written and proposed by the Shellfish Constable in accordance with the August 14th, 2020 memo from the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries Director Daniel J. McKiernan, in order to bring the regulations into compliance with the November 2018 change to MGL Chapter 130, Section 52.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Janet, aye.
Helen, aye. Helen, aye.
Michael, aye.
Brian, aye.
Justina?
Justina, aye.
Okay. So then on to B, the non-commercial permit fee. We good with this?
Yes.
No questions? Okay, I move to amend Section 5.2.2, non-commercial permit fee schedule of the Wellfleet Shellfishing Policy and Regulations to reflect the permitted sale of recreational shellfishing permits to non-resident town of Wellfleet employees at the resident rate, as recommended by the Shellfish Constable and Shellfish Department staff.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, aye.
Helen, aye.
Justina, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye. Okay, and on to C, we have the move to recommend increase of $10,000. Do you have anything to add about this, Nancy? It's pretty self-explanatory.
If anybody has questions, I feel like I tried to be very specific in the memo that I put together, but if anyone has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I was just thinking maybe you could explain it quickly so that people know what we're voting on at home.
Okay, yeah, just for the regular audience, sorry.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, we initiated what's called a revolving fund. So all of the permit fees and aquaculture license fees that are collected by the town go into something called the Shellfish Fund. And by creating the Shellfish Revolving Fund for propagation, 75% of those receipts now get dedicated to a revolving fund that can only be used for propagation, also kind of like nursery activities, anything to do with trying to provide more shellfish resources for the town, both commercially and recreationally. And 25% stays in the Shellfish Fund for the town to use, as it always has used the Shellfish Fund, to cover the budget as it deems necessary. So right away, the first year we were allowed to use $5,000, and some people might remember that we were able to use a bit of that by paying fishermen during COVID to fish the channel, and the town bought the cohogs and put them into our recreational and commercial areas because the markets had crashed. So I felt like we did a very good service for the shellfishing community and to the town in terms of not losing product before dredging. And now with this FY21 budget, $40,000 was taken from, or is proposed at town meeting to be taken from the Shellfish Revolving Fund for propagation, put into the Shellfish Department's line 180, which is our propagation budget. So that took, that budget has been $46,000 paid by taxpayers. And now only $6,000 will come from taxpayer dollars. $40,000 comes from the people who use the resource by way of aquaculture or commercial or recreational shellfish harvesting by the fees that they pay to the town, 75% of which comes Shellfish Revolving Fund. So that's kind of the backstory. I hope that was clear.
Yep, that was clear.
What I'm asking for a $10,000 increase so that we have some money, like we had the $5,000 this year. So we have $10,000 should there be opportunities that we could take advantage of as a town to both increase our propagation services to harvesters and help fishermen should this during tough times. I don't think that that we're out of the woods yet in this town, anywhere in the country or the world. And if we can do our small part to help our number one industry year-round in the town, I want to see what I can do through funds that they've paid into the town anyway.
Okay, Ryan?
Yeah, I just have a question because I'm, new to the board. So this would amend an article on town meeting that's this weekend. How will that be made? Will it be, do we give it to the moderator beforehand or do we amend it on the floor?
So you will, tonight, you just vote in support of Nancy's recommendation and the moderator will amend it on the floor of town meeting. He is aware of this and is waiting for you to support it.
All right, thank you. That's it for me.
If we support it.
If you support.
I move to support the recommended increase of $10,000 for the request in Article 22, Revolving Shellfish Fund Spending Limit, as proposed by the Shellfish Constable.
Second.
A roll call vote.
Janet, aye.
Helen, aye.
Tina, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I tried to take this to Shellfish Advisory Board. They are not going to meet before Saturday. I have been in discussions with Rebecca to see whether Finance Committee would like to take it up at their meeting that they're going to do before town meeting. So we'll see what happens. Otherwise, I'm happy to speak on town meeting floor to answer questions and make clarifications.
Okay, so the next one is a mistaken designated shellfish growing area, and I'm just going to move right now. I move to correct the area of Lieutenant Island South in section 4.22, boundaries of the Wellfleet shellfishing policy and regulations to reflect the appropriate CCB 11 designation as recommended by the Shellfish Constable.
Second.
I just have a question real quick, Nancy. This area, south, Lieutenant Island.
Yep.
Was it CCB 14?
No, it's weird, but north of the Lieutenant Island Bridge, it is CCB 14. South of the Lieutenant Island Bridge is CCB 11.
Okay, so on the other side of Lieutenant Island, it's CCB 11 again. Okay. All right, I was just curious.
Thank you. Yep. It's like the south and western sides of Lieutenant Island, for the most part, are CCB 11, and most of the north side, but not all, and the west side, and the east side, I'm sorry, are CCB 14.
Oh, 14. Okay. All right. Yeah. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, Ryan.
So this is a closed area, correct?
Right now, it is closed to oystering. It's open to clamming. From June 1st to October to September 30th, it's closed to oystering.
Okay, because the map that we were provided, it says it's prohibited area.
Oh, CCB 10. Yes, I'm sorry, Ryan. CCB 10 is a prohibited area. It's Hatches Creek.
Yeah. And we're reclassifying that as CCB 11?
No, it just in the regulations, it says that South Lieutenant Island is CCB 10. Hatches Creek is CCB 10. South Lieutenant Island remains CCB 11. Even on the DMF maps, it says CCB 11.
It's just in the regs. We're not actually reclassifying it.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't do that. The state has to do that anyway.
All right.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Justina, I.
Helen, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Nancy for this housekeeping. Mike,
Yep.
thank you to Nancy for doing this housekeeping.
You're welcome.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
So we're supposed to, begin the process of reviewing our 2020 goals. 10:20 right now. I'm kind of feeling like maybe we should do this after town meeting.
Yeah, that was going to be my.
Yeah, so, sorry, Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify, this first step, if you see the memo I sent you, all I'm simply asking you to do here is just look over the ones from last year and begin thinking about the ones that you want for this year. So that memo I provided for you outlines a timeline, and it'll obviously be adjusted because we're not discussing stuff here, but the first step is just reviewing last year's goals. So you all can just wait until the next meeting is the 22nd. And by then, if you could start at least having some goals formulated for me, that would be good discussion start point.
Okay, that's fine. So, yeah, I'm happy to have these. I just didn't want to have a discussion about it right now.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay, so everybody take that in, and after town meeting, we'll discuss or bring stuff up. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Mike?
Yes, Helen.
Mike?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Courtney, did you not find in the archive the lists from the 5 members that were specific? Because although
I do have those, Helen, and I can send them along.
To see, yeah, because
I understand,
example,
Helen, you asked me this
kind of
last year, I
grouping
believe.
That
Yep, Helen, I understand. I'll get you each individual member's
No, I
separate
asked you
list,
this-
not the consolidated ones. I'll get them to you. All of the members wish, yes, you'll get them.
good, because it's quite different.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Courtney. Okay. Response to Superintendent Brian Carlstrom's letter. Helen, you put this up here. I'm not so sure that we should respond, but did you, anybody want to discuss it? Go ahead, Helen. You have your hand up?
So can I say
Yep,
something
go
about
ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so there are some typos in this. I apologize for that.
That's all right.
But we were copied with 2 letters. We were copied with 2 letters that Carlstrom wrote, the superintendent wrote, after we met with him and other people at that DOT meeting. And I found his willingness to meet with us, which he expressed very clearly, and he volunteered it. It wasn't something that any one of us asked for, in strange juxtaposition to his supporting something which I have no argument with something somebody wants to support, but I would like to take him up on having a meeting together, which is what he said he wanted to participate in. Because at this point, we've sent a letter to the governor. A majority of the board approved it. And we want to have this happen differently than it's been happening. I think that we could say that at the very least. And this letter says to him a version of, here's what we need to remind you of. I reread the Cape Cod Commission's report on this, which is dated at this point, and highlighted the fact that it says in there that this particular piece of the bike trail of the DCR's project needs to be looked at again. And I feel that we need to respond to what he sent to the state at this point, because it's quite different. I came away from that meeting thinking like, okay, let's all get together and talk about it. And I'm responding to my own, I think, common sense and experience in having been to all these meetings, or most of them. I missed one. And also the people that we work for, who have given a very reasoned response to why they feel that these two projects are going as they have been. So that's the reason I think we should send a letter in response to something he copied us with. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ryan, you got anything?
Yeah, I just don't want to do it right now, as amendments to it. So I broadly support the letter, and the intent. I would like to see it a little shorter. Like 1 or 2 pages. Yeah, you just have to hit the highlights. But that's just, I don't know. That's all.
It may just be the font size there too, Ryan.
Yeah, maybe.
Looks like it's like 16 or something like that. So, because I think if you put
that, I didn't do that, but
if you put that in a 12-point font, it would probably be just around a page.
I can. Yeah, I can make it shorter, but I'm not sure that the superintendent has been privy to all the different meetings that have gone on the town, in the town arena, which is why I touched on some of this. But I can make it shorter, easy.
Okay, I've got Janet's hand up and then Justina. I think that was the order. Go ahead, Janet.
So I just disagree with some of the wording, and I'll agree with Ryan that I don't really want to go into it tonight. What time is it? 10:30?
Yeah.
There's some things in here that aren't factual. And I can see that Helen cut and pasted this from the previous meeting from like a year ago from the Bike and Walkways Committee. And
no,
if you want to go over it tonight, then I just don't want to go over it tonight, but there's things in here that I don't think are very accurate. Whoops.
Excuse me. I would love to hear what they are. I accept that, but I did no pasting from anything. No copying.
Okay, well, there's some verbiage in here that maybe it's just in your memory, but there's verbiage from their previous letter. I mean, I'll just say things like, here we are going over it. You know, the DCR project was almost unanimously voted for, like almost unanimously. I'm not really sure what that means. Like, how many is that? And I've asked the Bike and Walkways Committee to send me the petitions, and you say here, a petition signed by over 1,000 people. I have never seen this petition. None of us have ever seen the petition and all the signatures.
I have.
Well, I haven't.
Yeah,
So.
I have it.
And you should. That's a very good point. But the point is, the reason I put almost unanimously was we were all at that town meeting, and there were a few no's. I even checked.
So again, we're going over it. If we want to go over this, I'll go over it. But Ryan said he didn't want to. It's 10:30. We still have more stuff to do.
Okay, that's fine.
And I agree that maybe we can just do this later rather than tonight.
Justina?
Through you to Helen. Helen, I think first of all, thank you for doing this. Second of all, I think I heard you say that Superintendent Brian Carlstrom had offered to meet with us. So
yeah,
did I hear you right?
Yeah.
Well, offer to meet in a group on the subject, not just with us.
Right.
But
so
yeah.
I would keep the letter, and I agree that it's almost 10:30. It's been a long night for all of us. I would really keep the letter to the point of an invitation to meet. And then if at another point in time you wanted to assemble a background packet of information, that might be something that might be useful to him or might not. But I think that to narrate the history in a letter is presents a number of challenges, and the utility to us in the town is going to be the meeting, not the letter. So I would, as in all business correspondence, ask what's the objective here? Now, the objective is to take him up on the invitation to meet and get a schedule.
Yep. Mike, so excellent drafting proposal. That's what you put in. For drafting, you put in a lot and then you weed it out. So I will redraft this. Hold on. I will redraft this to follow Justina's suggestion, which I think is excellent. And the next, and submit a draft for us to look at and approve and get a chance to fix my typos. How about that?
Well, I would keep it to one paragraph. It's my impression you've cultivated an excellent collegial relationship with him, and should cordially invite him to meet.
Yeah, well, his relationship with
any letter could, and then we meet.
Yeah.
Now, it isn't just meeting with him, it's meeting with the 2 state agencies and the Bike and Walkways Committee. So I'll draft something which includes what's in that fat paragraph, second paragraph, and bring it back to the board. Thank you. I'm done for the evening about that, but maybe the rest of you aren't.
I just have one more suggestion for you. I agree with Justina. I think it would be more effective to go that route, and then you can abridge him of these issues that he may not be aware of at that time. But the other thing if you can just go back and sort of review that meeting that we just had, and just sort of take note of actually what he said. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I think that you're pretty much on point, that that he's willing to work with the town in whatever capacity, I think is what he said. So to move.
I did review that meeting.
Okay.
And he did. And moreover, before the meeting, he said he wanted to participate.
Yeah.
Because I was talking with him about the land use, the land exchange thing. So.
Okay. Well, okay. I think we're good. We can move on. Thanks, Helen.
All okay.
Okay. We'll look forward to the next draft. So we are on now select board reports. Does anybody have any reports at 10:30?
Mr. Chair, I need your final recommendations for the warrant articles.
Oh, where's that? Oh yeah, you're right. I skipped that part.
So since it is late and we are meeting on Friday anyway, if you want to just wait until Friday and I can give the moderator your recommendations that evening afterwards, we can do that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how long this discussion is going to go.
I think it might go for a minute.
Yeah, so we can wait until Friday.
What's our thing on Friday? How long is that looking like?
It shouldn't be going long because it would just be to make sure that all of your recommendations are in, which after these two, they would be.
Okay.
And then just,
final. Taking up another one that day too. So.
Well, Mr. Curley has suggested another one, but it would only be those 3. These 2 you visited pretty much in depth before. So, but you would have more time, I guess, if you waited till Friday for you each to go over them again to make up your minds.
Yeah, I would prefer to wait till Friday if the board's okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine. I would think we could decide this quickly, but we can also wait.
I'm up for it. And so will you have to repost the agenda, Courtney?
I haven't officially posted it yet, so it will be officially posted tomorrow with this on the agenda.
Yeah. And it could be quick, can I submit also have on that agenda the redraft that we just suggested, which will be spare and, pretty much what we've come to at the end of the last agenda item. So could that be on the agenda too, please?
You know what, Helen, this
would allow it.
This is really about us getting together, having the meeting that we always have right before town meeting. And I don't think we should muddle this up with business that should be in the future.
Well, that's one person. What about the rest of you? Could we take care of this? It is time sensitive.
What, do you want to do it right now?
No,
I'm asking about her letter to the superintendent, if that can go on Friday after she redrafted it.
I mean, it won't. We've already discussed it. I know what you want. It's an invitation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be all right with that as long as it's the rest of the stuff we have to do is short.
Yeah.
I would be all right with that. I don't think it would be that long of a discussion.
How many paragraphs?
Well, I mean, I'll see, what the language breaks up to, but it's going to be short.
Okay.
Have the one thing in it. Okay.
3 or less.
What?
3 or less.
Justina's conditioning it. She's saying 3 or less paragraphs, and she'll consider it.
Let me do it. We'll look at it. It's getting.
Okay, that's fine. I reserve the right to. I don't know.
Tell us.
Decide the agenda.
Let's get on with this meeting. Can we just take these up on Friday? Is that all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. They won't take long. I'm burnt out right now, kind of. I don't really feel like talking about it.
Okay, report.
Let's see. Select board reports.
Okay, I got some, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I went to, as you know, the Guapaka meeting, the people around the ponds in South Truro and North Wellfleet. And on Sunday, I went to the Lieutenant Island Association meeting. And that was excellent. It's a wonderful group. They're getting hammered by access issues. And on the way off the island, I encountered 2 cars with 9 people and a dog who were going to the beach there with no permit because they had on the website, it's posted as free access to the beach. And the people, the really nice people in this association were not NIMBY, they weren't gated community people. They were saying, we are being bombarded this summer. So that's my first report. My second report we just dealt with. And the third thing, and we might not have to meet on this, but there are quite a few people on different advisory committees, particularly, who we need them there, but they really, if they're voting on things like recommending fee hikes or fees at all, or anything that affects their finances, and I'm thinking of the Marina Advisory Committee, wonderful bunch of people, the Shellfish Committee, that they should submit disclosures to us so that we can, grant them dispensation to act on these things legally. And so they understand, that conflict of interest does come into the picture and that we're reminding them of that and that we do it legally. So that was my...
Is this a select board report or a future agenda item?
Oh, oops. Yeah. Okay. I'm a little burned out too. It's right under that. Forgive me.
That's
Mike, it's fine. A future agenda item.
Okay. Just
sorry.
That's fine. Okay. Any more select board reports?
Yes.
Ryan, go ahead.
So I talked to Scott Horsley right before tonight's meeting in regards to the wastewater. I forwarded you all his the email that he sent me with the spreadsheet with the expected nitrogen reductions for different scenarios and the costs involved in that. I talked a different one. I talked to Ann Sterling. I forwarded you all the email from her, and she later sent it to the board as well. And I've also sent it to John Reel and Jim Falcone because the issues that they're having on Field Point is unfortunate. They are real. There's way too many cars out there. The last one is the cemetery. I've talked to Elizabeth Bayes. She's the editor at the Rich Family Association, and she is planning on coming on that site visit on Sunday. But she is very upset about some of the work that's been done there as well. That's it for me.
Mike, I forgot something.
Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, I also had talked with Ann Sterling, and she had originally sent the document that Ryan just referred to our town administrator, Maria, and myself. And I told her to please send it to the whole select board. The other thing is, I spoke with David Agger today just to let him and the other people on the cemetery commission know about this site visit, which seemed the right thing to do. Anybody could have done it. And David told me something very interesting, which is they've had an awful lots. I think he said 86 different, markers, monuments repaired or somehow worked on. And the repair that was done most recently by that contractor, and this was the first time I heard this, the cemetery commissioners also didn't like it. And somehow that, I would have liked to hear that when we were looking at that warrant article, because they felt that the job had been done subpar. Now, he can't be here on Sunday, but he's hoping that one of the other cemetery commissioners will be able to go and walk around with us. It's a site visit, so we're not going to be having conversations. We're just going to be looking at things. Anyway, thank you, Mike. I had forgotten to say that.
Okay. No more reports. Okay. Town administrator's report. How you doing, Maria?
I'm doing well, considering the hour. So my report sort of speaks for itself. One of the things I will mention that you'll see from me coming up, some recommendations on how to handle and I don't want to open the discussion today, parking issues on private roads, and also the upcoming retirement of the harbor master and some staffing issues related to that. Once we get on the other side of town meeting, you'll be getting some information from me on both of those things.
Okay. And topics for future discussion. We got Helen's telling everybody to abide by all the open meeting laws and conflict of interest laws.
That was close. Just yeah.
You can submit what you want to Courtney. Just submit what you want it to say in the agenda. Or say it to me. I don't care. But whatever. Is that cool? All right. And then do we got anything else? Ryan, did you bring one up? I forget.
Yeah. I have two.
Yep.
Then one of them is not pressing, or they're really, neither of them are really pressing, but is to get the MEPA review for map 30 parcel 14 to get that going, so that if we do decide to propose selling it, that's done and taken care of. And the other is the gas tank replacements at the marina. I would like to know where, I know that you had the acting harbor master at a meeting in the spring. I was one at Kathleen's last meeting, and they said that they would have something, by the fall. But the summer obviously isn't a good time to tear up the marina. But I would like to know where that is, because it was approved in 2019 yeah.
Money's there. Fuel tank. All right. Yeah. Maybe we can just get something in writing from Will through town administrator, not have to bring him in because he's already reported to us. So we can just kind of get the status from Maria. If you can reach out and just see what the status is. Because I know that there's just been issues about where they thought it might be able to go, what was on the table before, and what's not on the table anymore or doesn't look like it. And so it's more of a trying to find the best location, I think, issue. But does that work for you instead of making it an agenda item? If we can get
based on that, then we can decide if it needs to be an agenda item or not.
Sure. Okay.
It's really more of a project tracking issue than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. We had him already once, so we'll just see where he's at. Okay. I was thinking that maybe with all the wastewater stuff that's coming up on the horizon, that maybe we should have a select board member as a liaison to the wastewater committee. So I was thinking maybe we could do something like that. That way there's just sort of a...
Did you mean 95 Lawrence Road?
No, wastewater.
Okay, Kathleen was on the 95 Lawrence Road.
Yeah, that was the other one I was going to...
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I asked Elaine about. And I'm not sure... So I was under the impression that, like, if you were on the select board when you resign, that you have to... There's a cooling off period where you're not supposed to serve on any boards, but... I don't know what the deal is with that.
I think it's 30 days.
Is that all? It's not a year?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it recently because I haven't done it.
Okay.
But I am going to be going to the wastewater committee meetings, whatever somebody else wants to do, because it's the best way for me to understand what's going on and just to absorb it.
Yeah. Well, I know Ryan came off wastewater. Have you officially resigned, Ryan?
Yeah. I had to as soon as I was elected.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Because they're under the supervision of...
Are we discussing this, or is this going to be an agenda item?
It's going to be agenda item, but I'm just wondering if... no, we're not discussing it.
Okay.
We're not discussing it. I just had a question. You're right.
Okay, because I have more to add, but I don't want to do it tonight.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe we'll put on the agenda, maybe having a liaison to the wastewater committee and also to the 95 Lawrence Road from the select board, one for each of them. Because I think they're just two major issues that are coming. They're going to start gaining traction. So maybe after town meeting, we can sort of put that on the agenda. That's the only thing I got right now. Anyone else? Okay, if you think of something later, just email Courtney. And we can move on to correspondence and vacancy reports. Anything?
I had one question.
Sure, Helen.
Right at the end, there's a internal memo from Ryan, and it says select board, typo, vendor and PR expenditures. And the date was September 1st. Please, Mike, through you to Ryan, what is this?
That's the payroll and vendor warrants that he has to sign.
Yeah.
You said that they need to be reported on, and so they're being put into the correspondence report.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
Okay, that's it? Correspondence? Okay, we talked about the Omaha Road situation. That's going to be an ongoing situation. Good thing we have a Rights and Access Committee to work on it.
Hold on.
Okay, minutes. Anyone want to make a motion? Okay, I move to approve the minutes of August 25th, 2020, as printed.
Second.
Ellen abstain.
Janet, aye.
Christina, aye.
Michael,
Ryan,
aye.
aye.
Ryan, aye. Okay. 4-0, 1 abstain. Okay, and can I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Anyone second?
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you,
Aye.
Michael.
We got a vote.
We got a vote.
Who didn't vote? Did I vote?
You didn't vote.
To adjourn?
Yeah.
Me or Helen? Aye. Janet, aye.
Okay, that's it. 5-0.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.